Chapter 187. Along the way, the carriage was filled with laughter and laughter. It didn't take long for the carriage to enter Yongla Lane and arrive in front of the Lee residence. Chung Chumo reluctantly got down from the Don't Touch Me carriage. He had never sat in such a comfortable carriage before. Li Zixuan angrily slapped his hand away. Along the way, every part of the carriage was touched by this fellow. Fortunately, the carriage was sturdy. Otherwise, he really suspected that the carriage would be fractured by this fellow. In the end, Chung Chumo still turned around and left. Li Zixuan asked someone to bring the carriage in. He followed Faubert and Yin shouting to the front hall. Li Zixuan asked in satisfaction, shouting, "How does it feel to sit in this carriage?" "Comfortable, comfortable. I feel that this carriage is very suitable for long-distance travel. Sitting in it, I don't feel tired at all." Yin shouting thought for a while and replied, "Haha, even Brother Shouting said it's good. Then it will definitely sell well." Faubert, the workshop will organize people to speed up the production of this new type of carriage. First, make 20 of them and send them to me. I have a use for them. Li Zixuan thought for a while and said to Faubert with a laugh. Faubert was dumbfounded and stupefied. Young master, what do you need so many carriages for?" The cost of 20 carriages was more than 10,000 strings of cash. Faubert couldn't help but be surprised. A part of it is to give to people. In the past few months when I returned to Chang, and I owed a lot of people. It's easy to repay money, but it's not easy to repay a debt of gratitude. This carriage can not only repay a part of the favor, but also make a name for myself in the circle of nobles. As for the other part of the carriage, I have a use for it. Li Zixuan thought in his heart. This young master is about to get married. When I pick up the bride, how can I do it without a grand carriage? Faubert was speechless and could only agree. "All right, Faubert, how's the paper machine? Are there any difficulties?" After talking about eating, drinking, and having fun, Li Zixuan finally remembered what he wanted to do. "Young master, the paper machine structure is complicated, and the amount of work required to build it early is quite large. It's not difficult to build it according to the blueprint, but it will take some time." Faubert thought for a moment and replied, "How long will it take?" 7 days. Li Zixuan frowned and muttered to himself. Are there not enough ordinary craftsmen in the workshop, or are there too few skilled craftsmen? Of course, it's because there are too few skilled craftsmen. Young master, skilled craftsmen are too hard to find. I'm afraid there are less than 10 skilled craftsmen in the workshop. Faubert said with a bitter face. Li Zixuan thought for a while, but he didn't have any good ideas. He could only say, "Faubert, send more people to other states and counties to look for craftsmen. As long as they are skilled and are willing to come to our workshop, we can talk about the benefits and treatment. As for the paper machine, you guys should try to speed up the progress. Ma Zhou is almost done with the preparations, and we're just waiting for you guys to start. Oh, Shouting happens to be free these few days. Why don't you go to the workshop and help Faubert with the paper machine? This should be able to speed up the progress a lot." Li Zixuan looked at Yin Shouting, who was leisurely at the side, and his eyes suddenly lit up as he suggested. Faubert quickly nodded in agreement. He admired Yin Shouting's mechanical talent very much. Yin Shouting staggered, and his face was full of black lines. He had just been released from his father's prison sentence, and now he was going to be thrown into prison by Li Zixuan. Just as he was about to object, he saw Li Zixuan raise a finger and said, "Brother Shouting, don't refuse. This paper machine is very important, and it must be done as soon as possible. Moreover, this workshop also has your shares. At worst, I'll give you a Don't Touch Me carriage after it's done. How about it?" Yin Shouting was a little moved, and he nodded after a moment. Unlike Li Zixuan, who casually owned dozens of Don't Touch Me carriages in the Tang Dynasty, a carriage was a very precious asset for other families. After dinner, Li Zixuan went to Mingyue Xian and saw Iron Egg squatting on a big rock beside the pond, hugging his knees and looking at the moon in the sky in a daze. Li Zixuan's heart was slightly moved. It seemed that his little sister was right. Iron Egg really had something on his mind. Could it be that this kid had taken a fancy to a girl and started to think about love? If that's really the case, what should I do? This is obviously puppy love. As his master, should I stop it? Li Zixuan's thoughts ran wild in the distance. The more he thought, the more tangled he became. In the end, he shook his head and slowly walked towards Iron Egg. Iron Egg, what are you thinking about? Li Zixuan walked behind Iron Egg and found that this kid was still in a daze, so he could only ask, Master, you're here? Iron Egg heard the sound and instantly woke up. This child was a little panicked and hurriedly said, Don't be nervous. Come, sit down. Tell me, what were you thinking about just now? Why were you so lost in thought? Li Zixuan patted his disciple's shoulder and said in a gentle tone. Iron Egg obeyed and sat down, but his eyes were somewhat evasive when he looked at Li Zixuan. Say it. Master, Iron Egg was not thinking about anything. There must be something. Do you think I don't know you, kid? Hurry up and say it. What can we talk about? Master, it's really nothing. This kid seemed to be born in the year of the walnut. Li Zixuan frowned and suddenly said with a smirk, Oh, I understand. Did you fall in love with a little girl? You were just looking at the moon and thinking about love. Iron Egg, it's not that I don't want you to find a wife. It's just that you are still young and should put your mind on your studies. Having such an unreliable master, Iron Egg almost vomited blood in his heart. His cheeks instantly swelled red, and he hurriedly stood up and waved his hand. Master, it's not like that. It's not like that. Then what is it like? If you have nothing on your mind, why would you be staring at the moon in a daze? Hurry up and say it. You're a man. Why are you wasting time? Li Zixuan slapped Iron Egg down again. With Li Zixuan's jesting, the atmosphere of the conversation instantly became relaxed. Iron Egg was no longer as reserved as before. He hesitated for a moment and asked, Master, are you going to marry my sister? He had been staying with the Li family all this time, so he had more or less heard about Li Zixuan's marriage. Li Zixuan nodded and frowned. Yes, Iron Egg, could it be that you don't want your sister to marry me? Iron Egg scratched his head and said awkwardly, Yes and no. Kid, what are you trying to say? Li Zixuan angrily knocked Iron Egg's forehead. Iron Egg hurriedly said with a conflicted face, Master, Iron Egg has been thinking recently. If Master marries my sister, will Iron Egg call you brother-in-law in the future? Or Master? Yes, he called me Big Sister. Where's Big Sister? Or Master's wife? Holy shit. Even though Li Zixuan was used to all kinds of strange questions, he was still shocked by Iron Egg's two powerful questions. Chapter 188. Li Zixuan felt a little dizzy after hearing Bruiser's words. It seemed like he could call him anything he wanted, but if he called him whatever he wanted, wouldn't it mess up the seniority? In the end, Li Zixuan stopped thinking about it. He rubbed Iron Egg's head angrily and said in a muffled voice, Call me by my original identity. Don't think too much. Go back and do your homework. Don't embarrass me in this week's exam. Oh, the next day, Li Zixuan ate his breakfast and brought Iron Egg to school. Lan'er, who had been playing truant recently, came along today. Of course, it wasn't because she suddenly liked to study, but because Li Zixuan drove a luxury car to school today. The little girl was still excited about yesterday, so she came along. After Li Zixuan's consolation the day before, Bruiser was no longer unhappy. The three of them chatted on and off in the car. Before long, they arrived at the Imperial College. Wow, whose carriage is this? It's so grand. I don't know. This carriage is really big. It should be Mr. Li's carriage. I know the driver. It's Sanbao. The person who spoke was a student of the School of Mathematics. Under the gaze of dozens of students, Don't Touch Me slowly came to the entrance of the School of Mathematics. The three of them got off the carriage one after another. The students in the school heard the commotion outside and ran out to take a look. They were shocked by the huge carriage in front of them. Hello, Mr. Li. What a luxurious carriage. It's even four-wheeled. The interior of this carriage should be very spacious. SSS, little Xian, where did you buy this carriage? It's even more luxurious than the carriages in the palace. I'll go up and take a look. When Li Tai saw the carriage, he couldn't take his eyes off it. This little fatty didn't know how to be polite. He excitedly jumped into the carriage. After a while, a series of exclamations came from inside. Damn, this stool is so comfortable. The space here is so big. Damn, there's even a latrine. Yeah, there's There's a switch on the pipe? Ah, impressive. He actually went easy on him. Li Tai screamed inside for a while, then came down and said excitedly to Lisa Xuan, Xiao Xian, sir, where can I buy this carriage? I must buy one too. This carriage is just too perfect. I can't buy it anywhere right now, but I should be able to buy it at the Strange Interest Pavilion soon. Go back to class. Lisa Xuan said indifferently. Li Tai's face was full of regret. He touched the carriage and reluctantly returned to the teaching house. The rest of the students couldn't help but take a few more glances at this luxury car before returning to class. The commotion caused by the carriage in the Imperial College was far from over. During the break between classes, students from other schools joined in to watch. It had to be said that under the leadership of the Mathematics and Mathematics Department, the entire directorate of Imperial College had started a 3-minute class and a 15-minute break. If they didn't do this, there was no other way. The students would keep making a fuss. Now, the instructors of the other schools hated Lisa Xuan to death. This carriage looks so luxurious. I wonder what's inside. It would be great if we could go in and take a look. When Sanbao heard this, she immediately opened her arms and shielded the carriage behind her like an old hen protecting her chicks. This carriage is so domineering. I want to ask my father to buy one too. Do you know where to buy one? The person who spoke was obviously from a wealthy family. He didn't even ask for the price, only where to buy it. I've never seen this before, but since this carriage is from Professor Li, he probably knows about it. I know where to buy it. Wang Mingming, hurry up and tell me. If you're right, I'll reward you with money. Thank you, young Master Chui. I heard from my friends in the Mathematics and Mathematics Department that this carriage is from the workshop of the Strange Taste Pavilion. It will be sold at the Strange Taste Pavilion after a while. Good. When the time comes, I'll definitely buy one. Acho, reward me. Yes, young master. Thank you, young Master Chui. During the 4th period, Kong Ingda came to the door of the Mathematics and Mathematics Department. He waved at Lisa Xuan as if he had something to say. Seeing this, Lisa Xuan let the students study by themselves. He followed Kong Ingda outside the classroom. Chancellor Kong, you're looking for me? Lisa Xuan asked softly as they approached the carriage. Yes, during the morning assembly a few days ago, His Majesty said that you invented something called Pinyin. It can help children learn to read. I'm here today to find out more about Pinyin, Kong Ingda said with a serious face. Lisa Xuan suddenly understood. Yin Xiaoning was still talking to him about this yesterday. He didn't expect Kong Ingda to come looking for him today. So it's about this. Chancellor Kong, why don't we talk about it in the carriage? Lisa Xuan didn't wait for Kong Ingda to reject him. He pulled open the curtains and invited Kong Ingda in. Kong Ingda hesitated for a moment, nodded, and got into the carriage. After entering the carriage, Kong Ingda was shocked to see that the interior decoration of the carriage wasn't inferior to a small, independent room. He finally understood why Lisa Xuan insisted on him getting into the carriage to talk. This was simply a moving luxury room. After sitting on the soft sofa, Kong Ingda was shocked again. This time, he couldn't hold it in anymore. He put on a serious face and said to Lisa Xuan earnestly, Little Xian, Mencius once said that when the heavens are about to bestow a great responsibility on a man, they must first torment his will, toil his muscles and bones, and starve his body. I know that your family is wealthy, but you can't be too immersed in luxury. Lisa Xuan was speechless. He saw that Elder Kong was old, and it was quite tiring for him to stand outside. That's why he let him get into the carriage and talk things over slowly. Who knew that he would be lectured the moment he got into the carriage? Who the hell could he find a reason with? Chancellor Kong, students nowadays study hard all their lives. Other than realizing their ambitions, most of them use their knowledge to change the lives of their families. This kid's luxurious carriage is used to motivate them. It's to tell them that if they want to sit in such a good carriage like this kid, they must study hard. This way, they will have a goal and be able to study even more diligently. What's more, even though my family is wealthy, I have never forgotten to help the poor. Han Family Manor and Plum Village have nearly 500 families. Because of this kid, they're able to eat their fill and wear warm clothes. It shouldn't be too much for this kid to use the extra money to enjoy life, right? Li Zixuan said with sincerity. Traditional Confucian scholars like Kong Ingda usually believe that people with lofty ambitions must endure hardships and not enjoy life wholeheartedly. Li Zixuan didn't agree with this kind of thinking. What's wrong with me spending the money I earn for myself to enjoy? It's not against the law. What's more, I'm not the kind of person who is heartless and stingy. I've already helped the poor people around me. How can I not be allowed to enjoy life? How can there be such logic in this world? Kong Ingda was rendered speechless by Li Zixuan's seemingly strong excuses. He couldn't help but think to himself, this kid is really good at talking about crooked practices. I've really underestimated him. Li Zixuan didn't want to make this principal too embarrassed and immediately stopped while he was ahead. He coughed dryly and said, cough, cough. Chancellor Kong, let's talk about pinyin. Chapter 189. In front of the Institute of Mathematics. In the luxurious carriage of the Li family, Li Zixuan forcefully changed the topic. Kong Ingda saw that he could not persuade the young man in front of him, so he simply went with the flow and discussed the issue of pinyin with Li Zixuan. There were brushes, ink, paper, and inkstone in the carriage. Li Zixuan took the brushes and wrote and drew while teaching Kong Ingda some pinyin knowledge. This old Confucian scholar's cultural foundation was indeed profound. In less than half an hour, Kong Ingda had a simple grasp of pinyin. Not bad, not bad. Professor Li, pinyin is indeed magical. If you can spread this method of learning words, your name will definitely go down in history. I want to be the first to spread pinyin in the 6 institutes of the Imperial College. I wonder if Professor Li is willing? After Kong Ingda understood the magical effects of pinyin, he could not help but praise. Li Zixuan pondered for a moment and nodded. Of course, although the students of the Imperial College had long learned how to read, there was still a need to teach them how to read. Most of the students belonged to the elite class of the current young people. After they understood the benefits of pinyin, when they left the Imperial College, they would either become officials, enter the court, or just become teachers. However, they would all bring pinyin to other places. They would also be the first batch of seeds to spread pinyin. Thus, Li Zixuan agreed with Kong Ingda's idea very much. Then from tomorrow onwards, I'll have to trouble Professor Li to teach pinyin to all the instructors, professors, and teaching assistants of the Imperial College every afternoon. I estimate that after 4 or 5 days, all of them will have mastered the pinyin literacy method. At that time, they will teach the students of the Imperial College. What do you think? Kong Ingda thought for a moment and said the pinyin teaching plan that he had been considering for a long time. Kong Ingda had learned that Li Zixuan would be lazy every afternoon. Although this guy had his own legitimate reasons, the fact that he was lazy was indisputable. Therefore, Kong Ingda deliberately set the training time to be every afternoon. This way, it would not delay the teaching plan of the School of Mathematics and it would also promote pinyin in the shortest time possible. When Li Zixuan heard Old Man Kong's words, he was immediately flabbergasted. Damn, is this old man purposely messing with me? Does this count as me digging a hole and burying myself? Chancellor Kong, you mustn't do that. You might not know, but this junior contracted a strange illness when I was young. Later on, I was saved by my master, and this junior avoided the misfortune of dying early. However, for the next few years, this junior must rest every afternoon. Otherwise, this junior will definitely lose my life. Li Zixuan suddenly had an idea and immediately cried out pitifully. Although Kong Ingda didn't know what it meant to spit out a mouthful of old blood, at this moment, he was really about to vomit blood because of Li Zixuan. He had lived for so long and had seen countless people and things. What kind of strange things had he not heard? As soon as he heard Li Zixuan's words, he knew that this kid was talking nonsense. Kong Ingda pointed at Li Zixuan with a face full of anger. He was so angry that he trembled and couldn't say anything. When Li Zixuan saw the situation, he felt that he had gone overboard. He immediately stood up and patted Kong Ingda's chest to soothe his heart. Chancellor Kong, calm down, calm down. This kid was just joking with you. Please don't take it seriously. Kong Ingda drank a cup of tea, and only then did he catch his breath. He lectured Li Zixuan with a solemn face. Brat, I know that you have some attainments in mathematics and have some smarts in other areas, but you have to know that a Taoist also has a conscience. At the beginning, a man's nature is good because he has a conscience. Therefore, a teacher should follow a person's good nature and promote their good nature while suppressing their evil. This is to pass on Taoism. As a teacher, if you don't study how to teach and educate people wholeheartedly, how can you be a role model for others? The spread of pinyin is extremely important to the education of our great Tang. You have to do it diligently. Otherwise, in the future, you will have to stay in the Imperial College to teach and not go anywhere. Kong Yingda's voice was stern, and he was so frightened that he spat at Li Zixuan's face. Li Zixuan's face was full of helplessness. It seemed that old Kong was really angry this time. Yes, Chancellor Kong's lesson is right. This kid will definitely teach pinyin to the teachers of the Imperial College. In order to ensure that he could continue to rest in the afternoon, Li Zixuan could only compromise and sacrifice these few days to teach pinyin to the teachers of the Imperial College. Otherwise, what else could he do? He couldn't go up and fight with this old man. Although he was sometimes a little muddle-headed, he still knew how to respect the old and love the young. Moreover, Kong Yingda had the moral high ground, and his words weren't without reason. The spread of pinyin was indeed very important. Kong Yingda nodded his head in satisfaction and prepared to get off the carriage. Suddenly, he turned his head and said, I heard from His Majesty that you, the Crown Prince, King Wei, and the others are working together to compile a dictionary that includes pinyin. If you don't have enough manpower, you can tell me, and I will send some scholars of the Imperial College to assist you. Thank you for your kind intentions, Chancellor Kong, but I have enough manpower. He had received news yesterday that Su Shizhong, Xue Shou, Yin Xiangxuan from the Eastern Palace, as well as Xiao Dian, Gu Yin, Jiang Yaqing, Xie Yin, and the other scholars of the Literature Hall under Li Tai were all in the back hall of the workshop. The compilation of the Great Tang Dictionary was already in full swing, and they had enough manpower. Yes, this dictionary is very important. Professor Li, you must pay attention to it. After the compilation of the dictionary is completed, you must inform me. I must go and take a look at such a grand literary event. Of course. Rest assured, Chancellor Kong. Li Zixuan hurriedly cupped his hands and promised. He only hoped that the Chancellor would leave quickly and not create any more trouble. A moment later, Li Zixuan wiped the sweat off his forehead. He had finally sent away the old-fashioned great scholar of the present age. He thought to himself, it seems that this brother's good days are about to come to an end. This is really King miserable, but it should only take a few days of hard work. He hoped that the instructors of the Imperial College could learn pinyin fast enough. After a while, the bell for the morning class rang. Li Zixuan went home with Iron Egg and Lanner in a low mood. The two little guys could see that Li Zixuan was not in a good mood, so they did not talk and laugh along the way. They were very obedient and accompanied Li Zixuan. After lunch, the two little guys continued to go to school. Of course, it was still the luxury car that picked them up. Li Zixuan enjoyed this last leisurely afternoon alone in the West Courtyard. He could not help but start to think about spring again. If only my baby Yushi was here. He could hug his wife every day, eat, sleep, and play with Daodu. This kind of life, even the gods would not change. As he thought about it, he could not help but drool. Chapter 190. Li Zixuan was a little drowsy by the summer breeze. When he was on the verge of waking up and falling asleep, he saw Xiao Shi in a bright yellow dress, walking over gracefully. She said softly to Li Zixuan, Young master, Wang Renbiao and his father want to see you. Butler Wang is waiting in the front hall. Oh, Li Zixuan's expression changed. He stood up and said, Well, Xiao Shi, come with me to have a look. At the same time, there was a touch of coldness in his heart. The Wang family should give me an explanation for the kidnapping of Xiefeng Stockade. In the front hall of Li Mansion, Wang Renbiao and a middle-aged man with thick eyebrows, big eyes, and a stocky waist were sitting on both sides. The two of them looked at each other and did not say a word. The hall was very quiet for a while. Wang Zhong looked at the tea table beside the two of them. Some of the tea was about to turn cold. He hesitated for a moment and was finally forced to retreat by the oppressive atmosphere. He retreated to the side and did not dare to say a word. The main reason was that the pressure on the middle-aged man was too strong. In a moment, Li Zishuan came to the front hall. Wang Rinbiao took the lead to stand up and said to Li Zishuan, "Mr. Li, long time no see. How have you been? Let me introduce you. This is my father. He just arrived in Chang'an yesterday. Today, he went to the palace to see His Majesty, and then came to visit Li Mansion with me. According to the rules of the imperial court, the provincial governor of a state could not leave the territory under normal circumstances. Wang Rinbiao's father came directly to Chang and had to report to the Ministry of Personnel. However, he was also a relative of the imperial family. If he directly reported to Lier, no one dared to say anything." Li Zishuan's eyes stopped on the middle-aged man. He thought that this man turned out to be Wang Yu, who married Li Yuan's sister. Cheng Yaojin had told him a lot about the Wang family in Taiyuanqi County. Today, he finally saw the real person. This person's facial features were resolute and sharp. From his face, one could vaguely see the shadow of Wang Rinbiao. There was also a dignified aura around him. It was probably because he had been in a high position for a long time. Regardless of what he was thinking, Li Zishuan still cupped his hands towards Wang Yu and bowed. This humble official pays his respects to Governor Wang. In the first year of Zhengguan, Li Er divided the world into 10 provinces. There were a total of 360 provinces in the country. These provinces were divided according to their population into Upper Province, Middle Province, and Lower Province. The provincial governor of Upper Province was secondary grade 3, the provincial governor of Middle Province was primary grade 4, and the provincial governor of Lower Province was primary grade 4. The Sui province that Wang Yu was in charge of belonged to the Central Province. As the provincial governor of Sui province, if calculated according to rank, he belonged to the upper 4th rank. Li Zishuan, on the other hand, was a secondary class 5th rank official, regardless of whether he was a county founder of the country or a doctor of the Imperial College. But logically speaking, it was already a miracle that he was able to reach secondary class 5th rank at his age, because Li Zishuan was a full 4 ranks lower than Wang Yu. He had to open his mouth and address himself as a humble official. In the officialdom, one had to abide by the rules of the game. If one casually treated a superior with disrespect, then one would not only offend one person, but also the entire official class. At this moment, a faint smile appeared on Wang Yu's tense face. He raised his hands and said with a smile, "Sir Li Zishuan, there is no need to be so courteous. Although this official is far away in Sui province, I have long heard of Sir Li Zishuan's matter. The curve Yuan Divine plow has spread throughout the world, benefiting the millions of poor commoners of my great Tang. Today, this official represents the elders of Sui province in thanking Sir Li Zishuan." After saying this, he actually gave Li Zishuan a deep bow. Li Zishuan was shocked and hurriedly said, "There is no need for this, Provincial Governor Wang. Although this little one invented the curved yuan plow, His Majesty has already rewarded me. Thus, this little one cannot accept this gratitude." At the same time, his impression of this provincial governor Wang had changed quite a bit. This person held a high position and came from a large clan, but he did not have the slightest bit of arrogance. In terms of personality, he was very similar to Wang Rinbiao. The only difference was that he had a very powerful aura. No matter what, the commoners of various lands have benefited from the curved yuan plow. This is an indisputable fact. In truth, this old man has come today for another matter. I presume that Sir Li Zishuan has already guessed it. Wang Yu straightened his body and clasped his hands towards Li Zishuan. Today, this old man has come to apologize to Sir Li Zishuan on behalf of my unfilial son. A few days ago, that unfilial son actually colluded with bandits to kidnap Sir Li Zishuan's fiancée. He even had designs on the Li family's immortal inebriation formula. Fortunately, it did not lead to irreversible consequences. Otherwise, that unfilial son would have died 10,000 times. In the end, this matters because this old man did not teach his son well. If Sir Li Zishuan has any requests, you can raise them. Do not harm the relationship between you and my Renbiao because of this matter. Li Zishuan raised his eyebrows. They had finally come to the main matter. At the same time, he also had some doubts in his heart. From the start, this Wang Yu had a very humble attitude. Logically speaking, as the provincial governor of a province, backed by a large clan, and even married Li Er's aunt, he should not have such a humble attitude towards him. Actually, on the surface, this was indeed the case. However, Wang Yu had his own considerations. Although Li Zishuan was only a provincial governor, his growth potential was enormous. Not only did he have a good relationship with Chang Yaojin, Qin Xiong, and a bunch of other military veterans, he also had a close relationship with Li Changxian and Li Tai. From the current situation, first of all, Li Changxian's position as crown prince was very stable. Even if something happened in between, the throne would only fall on Li Tai's head. However, no matter what, Li Zishuan would at least be able to survive through 2 dynasties. His official position would only soar to the skies. Moreover, Li Er's intention to weaken the power of the large clans was already clear. Although Wang Yu had married Li Er's aunt, under the teeth of the storm, his every move would be infinitely magnified. Thus, Wang Yu's current standard of conduct was, don't cause trouble, don't cause trouble. If he caused trouble, quickly turn it into a small one, and a small one into nothing. What if I want Wang Rini to die? Regardless of the meaning behind Wang Yu's humble attitude, Li Zishuan still wanted to sound him out. Of course, if he could directly have Wang Rini die, that would be the best. He had always harbored killing intent towards those who dare to touch his woman. Hearing this, Wang Yu's body clearly trembled. A trace of paleness and struggle flashed across his wrinkled old face. No matter how mischievous his son was, he was still his son. Even a vicious tiger would not eat its cubs. How could he watch his son die before his eyes? Wang Renbiao looked at his father's pale face from the side. He hurriedly went up to Li Zishuan and clasped his hands. Sir Li, although my younger brother did some foolish things, in the end, you arrived in time to save Miss Han. There was no tragedy. Thus, I hope that Sir Li will be magnanimous and spare his life. Li Zishuan stared into Wang Renbiao's eyes and asked, the person who showed me the way at Rhinoceros Slope that day, was it one of your people? When he heard the second half of Wang Renbiao's words, his heart suddenly moved. He remembered that day when he was in despair. A piece of silk with words written on it flew to him. Wang Renbiao looked at Wang Yu, then nodded to Li Zishuan. It was Yu Yao who was by my side. The day before the incident, Yu Yao found out that my younger brother was sending people to harm you. However, she did not hear their specific plans. Thus, I had Yu Yao follow Xiaoing. When I found out that they were going to harm Miss Han, I ordered Yu Yao to help you save Miss Han. Thus, I hope that Sir Li can give me face and spare my younger brother's life. Chapter 191. In the hall, the atmosphere was a little tense. After Wang Renbiao finished speaking, he stared at Li Zishuan, hoping that he would agree. Wang Yu was silent for a moment and said, our Wang family was in the wrong in the kidnapping of Xiefeng Stockade. We are willing to pay some price in exchange for forgiveness. If Mr. Li has any requests, you can tell me. I just hope that you can save my son's life. Wang Yu paused and said with a sad expression, no matter what, Ren Yi is my child. I'm almost 50 years old. To be honest, I've already become indifferent to fame and fortune. I only hope that Ren Yi and Run Yi can be safe and sound. I hope that Li Xiannian can understand me from a father's point of view. If Mr. Li can be merciful this time, our whole Wang family will remember this kindness in the future. Li Zishuan was speechless. Although Wang Yu had been in a high position for many years, at this moment, he was just like an old father. Only, Li Zishuan didn't understand. With such an irresolute and indecisive personality, how had he managed to get to the position of patriarch? In the novels in his previous life, the heads of the big families should be indifferent and ruthless. Everything should be based on the interests of the family. Provincial Governor Wang, since you said so, and Cousin Rennie did provide me with a lot of help in the kidnapping that day, then let's forget about this matter. But I don't want Wang Rennie to jump out and harm my relatives in the future. Otherwise, I will definitely kill him at all costs. At that time, Even if the Chui and Wang families attack me together, I will not be afraid. The 7 big families have been high and mighty for thousands of years. Others are afraid of them, but I am not. At worst, I will pierce a hole in the sky. Li Zishuan thought about it. This time, he really could not kill Wang Rini. Putting aside the friendship between Wang Yu and Wang Renbiao and the pressure from the Chui and Wang families, Li Er had protected Wang Rini before. Moreover, after the incident that day, Wang Rini, a villain, had escaped in advance. Now, except for Wang Yu and Wang Renbiao, no one knew where Wang Rini was. Fortunately, he gave up and did Wang Renbiao a favor. However, he still had to take precautions. If there was a next time, even if Li Zishuan had to chase him to the ends of the earth, he would still kill Wang Rini with his sword. Wang Yu was delighted at first, but when he heard Li Zishuan's murderous words, he was shocked. This young man was only 14 or 15 years old, but he had such a strong murderous aura. Don't worry, County Magistrate Li. That unfilial son has already been imprisoned by the clan's punishment hall. He won't come out to do evil again. For this matter, our Wang family owes you a favor. If Li Xiannan needs any help in the future, feel free to let Renbiao know. Once this old man receives the news, I will definitely do my best to help. Li Zishuan nodded his head silently, but his heart was in turmoil. He did not expect the Wang family to have a law enforcement hall. This plaything sounded similar to the cultivation sex in some cultivation novels. There were law enforcement hall, elder hall, law enforcement hall, law enforcement hall, law enforcement hall, elder hall, law enforcement hall, and so on. It seemed that none of these traditional aristocratic families were simple. In order to express my sincerity, this old man has specially prepared some humble gifts. I hope County Magistrate Li can accept them. After saying this, Wang Yu took a red sandalwood box from Wang Renbiao's hands and handed it to Li Zishuan. Li Zishuan was really overwhelmed by the favor. The matter had already been discussed, and a misunderstanding had been cleared up. Wang Yu, as the provincial governor of a province, actually still wanted to give a small 5th-rank official like him a gift. What was he trying to do? Was this old man really the Wang family's patriarch? Why was he so low-key? No need, no need. Provincial Governor Wang is too polite. Li Zishuan hurriedly waved his hand to refuse. After all, one's mouth was too soft for others. There are only some worthless things inside. County Magistrate Li's refusal. Could it be that you are still unwilling to reconcile with the Wang family? Wang Yu pushed the box in front of Li Zishuan again. After a few more times, Li Zishuan finally accepted. In any case, Wang Yu said that the things inside were worthless. Since he had accepted them, then so be it. After chatting for a while, Wang Yu and his son tactfully took their leave. During this time, the two sides naturally reached many agreements. For example, the cooperation that Li Zishuan and Wang Renbiao had previously discussed. After the kidnapping incident, Li Zishuan had unilaterally stopped the supply of wine to the strange interest pavilion and the winery. At that time, Wang Renbiao felt that the Wang family was in the wrong, so he did not raise any objections. Now that the relationship between the two sides had been mended, the cooperation was restarted. After returning to his room in the west courtyard, Li Zishuan was no longer sleepy. His eyes inadvertently glanced at the dark red sandalwood box beside his hand. His heart skipped a beat, and he picked it up and weighed it in his hand. Hey, it's quite heavy. I wonder what's inside it. Li Zishuan carefully opened the wooden box and was immediately blinded by the light. The wooden box was divided into 2 rows and 4 rows, and there were 8 small compartments. In each compartment, there was a fist-sized luminous pearl lying quietly. Inside the luminous pearl, the fluorescent light flowed like liquid. If there was only one, it might not be so dazzling, but when all 8 of them were placed together, it was really dazzling. Oh my God, that old geezer Wang Yu actually said that these were just some worthless playthings. If they weren't valuable, then what was valuable about them? The Wang family seems to be richer than me. Li Zishuan had only seen these genuine luminous pearls in some documentaries in his previous life. Although the principle of the luminous pearl was very simple, and there were many artificial luminous pearls that cost 6 yuan on certain treasures. These natural luminous pearls in front of him were really priceless. At least, he had not seen anyone selling luminous pearls of this size on the market since he transmigrated here. He did not know where that old man Wang found so many luminous pearls. He really put in a lot of money. "Father, are you going to give those 8 luminous pearls to Li Zixuan, just like that?" Wang Renbiao asked Wang Yu in a vermilion carriage on the street. Wang had been resting with his eyes closed. At this moment, he said without opening his eyes, "There are just some inanimate objects that emit light. If we keep them in the family's treasury, they will only gather dust. It's better to use them to ease the relationship between the two families." "Father, is the situation of the aristocratic families really so bad?" Wang Renbiao was also very surprised by his father's humble attitude today. But after thinking for a while, he guessed why Wang Yu was like this, but he still did not quite believe it. Wang Yu finally opened his eyes. He looked at Wang Renbiao and said in a deep voice, "Today, I have an audience with His Majesty. His Majesty has also indirectly warned me to restrain the children of the family. And according to His Majesty's intention, I'm afraid that it won't be long before he makes a move on the aristocratic families. Renbiao, remember, His Majesty is a man of great talent and bold vision. He will definitely not allow the aristocratic families to surpass the imperial court. And I believe that even if all the aristocratic families were to join forces, they would not be a match for His Majesty. The other aristocratic families cannot see the situation clearly and are futilely trying to stop the chariot with their arms. But our Wang family must see the situation clearly and learn to protect ourselves. Otherwise, no matter how strong the imperial favor is, the Wang family will be destroyed in an instant." Wang Renbiao nodded with a solemn expression. "Yes, Father, I will remember." Wang Yu looked at the endless stream of people outside the carriage. After a moment of silence, he sighed with a tired face. "Sigh. The tree wants to be quiet, but the wind will not stop." Chapter 192. The rain was pitter-patter, and the sky was gloomy. Due to the lack of light in the classroom, it was dark and gloomy. Li Zixuan sat at the lectern, his eyes fixed on the students who were doing their test papers. There was no lectern in the classroom, but he felt that it was uncomfortable to lecture on flat ground. So he had someone build a lectern and moved it in. It was a rare day of cool weather. After so many days of heat, it finally rained. Li Zixuan was wearing a thin white gown. He was lying on the tall and long desk in front of the lectern, looking at the students who were doing their tests. He felt very satisfied. Once upon a time, he was like them, sitting upright and still, racing against time to answer the questions. Not only did he have to ensure that his answers were correct, but he also had to ensure that they were correct. That was not a normal kind of hard work. Now, he could be considered to have opened up a god's perspective. He was high up, watching others take their tests. Naturally, he felt different. That's right. Today was the small test that was held every 7 days. However, Li Zixuan habitually called it a weekly test in his mind, even though people in the Tang Dynasty did not know what a weekly test was. His thoughts flew back to 2 days ago. Under Kong Ingda's strict supervision, Li Zixuan had no choice but to conduct 2 afternoons of pinyin special training sessions for all the instructors, teaching assistants, and professors of the Imperial College. Letting a 14-year-old child teach to these old scholars who were mostly in their 40s, and there were even some who were in their 60s, was bound to cause some people to express their dissatisfaction. However, this time, Kong Ingda personally supported Li Zixuan and made it clear that if anyone did not pay attention and did not learn pinyin in the end, Kong Ingda would personally report to His Majesty and expel them from the Imperial College. This kind of extremely strict punishment system directly nipped in the bud the restless instructors who wanted to jump out and cause trouble in the bud. One had to know that the positions of instructors, teaching assistants, and professors of the Imperial College were a great honor for scholars. Speaking of which, these positions were even more awesome than being a professor at Peking University or Tsinghua University in his previous life, because these positions all had ranks. In this lifetime, they had studied hard for decades, and it was not easy for them to get to where they were today. How could they bear to be stripped of this glorious position just like that? Therefore, during the 2 afternoons of classes, there was no such thing as showing off or slapping people in the face. Instead, each of them was more serious than the other, and with the help of the blackboard, the learning efficiency of these teachers of the Imperial College was surprisingly high. However, their attitude towards Lisa Schwann had completely changed after they had grasped the basics opinion. After so many years of teaching, how could they not see the greatness of Pinyin? As a result, their attitude towards learning became more and more correct. During class, the expressions on their faces were as fanatical as if they were on a pilgrimage. These teachers learn things really fast. But this is even better. I estimate that in another afternoon, they will all be able to grasp Pinyin. At that time, wouldn't she be able to return home every afternoon to sleep and tease the servant girls? How carefree would that be? Lisa Schwann propped up his cheek with one hand and sat there thinking happily. Suddenly, he caught a glimpse of movement below. His position had a high platform view. Some students might think that Lisa Schwann wouldn't be able to see what they were doing under the table, but what they didn't know was that sitting on the podium, he could use the high platform view to see every single movement below clearly. Lisa Schwann used his fingers to pick up a piece of chalk, folded it half an inch, weighed it in his hand, and threw it in a certain direction below. That half-inch piece of chalk was like a cruise missile, accurately smashing into Cheng Chumo's head. Cheng Chumo, who had been sneaking glances at Qin Huayu's paper, was shocked by this sudden attack. He quickly looked toward the podium and met Lisa Schwann's fierce gaze. "Humph! If there's a next time, I'll give you 0 marks." Lisa Schwann coldly harumphed and said this arrogantly. In his heart, he thought that this was the catchphrase of the invigilator in his previous life. It felt so good to use it. The students in the classroom all raised their heads, trying to figure out who Lisa Schwann was talking about. Cheng Chumo rubbed his forehead as if nothing had happened. Then, this fellow acted as if Lisa Schwann was not talking about him and pretended to calmly look at his paper. Even though he did not understand some of the questions at this time, he definitely could not let everyone know that Lisa Schwann was talking about him. Even though he was thick-skinned, plagiarism was too shameful. Cheng Chumo expressed that he still wanted to show some face. Seeing that Cheng Chumo had calmed down, Lisa Schwann did not continue to pursue the matter. He walked down from the podium and began to patrol. The first place he came to was Li Tai's position. This little fatty was writing at a rapid speed. He did not seem to be affected by the commotion just now and was quickly doing calculations on the draft paper. Lisa Schwann glanced at his paper and was slightly surprised. This little fatty had actually finished the second to last question. His speed was really fast. There was still nearly an hour before the exam ended. He just did not know how accurate this kid was. Lisa Schwann paused for a while before continuing his patrol. He found that most of the students were still stuck at the 5th or 6th last question. Qin Huayu, Iron Egg, and Ku Shiqing had all finished the 3rd to last question. Moreover, Lisa Schwann saw that they had all answered the questions correctly. What surprised Lisa Schwann was that Meng Wenhao had also finished the 2nd to last question. Lisa Schwann had learned a lot about this child's family background from Su Hongji. This child was truly from a poor family. In this era, it was dozens of times more difficult for a poor family to nurture a child into a talent than it was in modern society. It was also very difficult to pass through the layers of selections in various places and finally enter the Imperial College. Therefore, in Lisa Schwann's opinion, whether it was Meng Wenhao or Meng Wenhao's father, they were truly amazing people. Lisa Schwann sincerely admired their perseverance. From the part that Meng Wenhao was writing at the moment, he had completely thought through the train of thought for this question. As long as he did not take the initiative to court death, he would definitely be able to get all the points for this question. Lisa Schwann secretly nodded and thought to himself, if this child can get into the top 3 in this weekly exam, then I'll pay a visit to their home and help their family solve some of their living difficulties. He admired hard-working and diligent children like Meng Wenhao from the bottom of his heart. When Cheng Chumo saw Lisa Schwann coming over for an inspection, He hurriedly covered his paper and glared at Lisa Schwan to prevent him from looking. Lisa Schwan was speechless and thought to himself, is this guy's brain short-circuited? Aren't you going to show me your paper sooner or later? Why are you covering it now? Lisa Schwan snorted unhappily and returned to the podium. Chapter 193. Clang, clang, clang. The bell rang, signaling the end of the class. Lisa Schwan stood up, knocked on the table, and shouted, "Stop writing! Stop writing! The last student in each row, stand up and collect the papers. If you don't stop writing, I'll give you 0 marks." Ching Chumo's wrist shook, and he quickly put down his pen. He looked at Lisa Schwan bitterly, and then stood up to collect the papers. After all, he was sitting in the last row. After a while, all the papers were collected. Lisa Schwan tidied them up, and then he looked at the weather outside and said, "We'll have a break in the afternoon. You don't have to come. Have a good rest at home." The exams had just finished, so no one was in the mood to go to class. Moreover, it was raining heavily outside. Although the children all had straw raincoats, the raincoats were barely enough to block the rain. Also, tomorrow and the next 2 days were off, so he might as well give them an extra half-day off. "Oh, sir, that's great. We finally have a break." "Ha! We actually have an extra half-day off. The student from the other schools can only be envious. Ha ha." When the students heard the good news, they couldn't help but cheer loudly. At present, the other schools in the Imperial College were under pressure to adopt the daily schedule of the School of Mathematics. However, the School of Mathematics 2-day break for every 5 days of classes was firmly rejected by the instructors of the other schools. Therefore, although the pace of learning in the School of Mathematics was very tense, with a small exam every Monday and a senior high exam every month, and there was a feeling of being eliminated at the end of the class, the students of the School of Mathematics had more rest time. This was something that the students from the other schools envied. Holding the papers and watching the students disappear into the misty rain, Lisa Schwan put on his straw raincoat and prepared to go to the canteen of the Imperial College for lunch. "Master, you're not going back at noon again?" Iron Egg ran over and asked. I'm not going back." "Iron Egg, you can take the carriage and go back by yourself. I'll ask Sanbao to bring the carriage here in the afternoon." In the past few days, Lisa Schwan had to stay in the Imperial College to teach the instructors in the afternoon, so he basically didn't go back at noon. Instead, he ate in the canteen of the Imperial College. 2 days ago, Iron Egg also stayed with him and didn't go back. However, the Institute of Mathematics was closed this afternoon, so Lisa Schwan asked Iron Egg to go back first. "Oh." Iron Egg responded and quickly packed his things, preparing to go out. There was a guy waiting outside for a free ride. "Hello, Mr. Lee." "Hello, Dr. Lee." "Greetings, Grandmaster." Due to the heavy rain today, many students were unwilling to go home for lunch, so there were many people in the cafeteria. As soon as Lisa Schwan came in, many students greeted Lisa Schwan. Some were from the Institute of Mathematics, and some were from the Institute of Imperial College for Gates Academy and other institutes. This guy was now a popular figure in the Imperial College. First, he came up with the blackboard chalk, then came up with the recess system, and then came up with a 2-day recess system that made all the students in the other institutes extremely envious. In addition, in the past few days, he had been training all the instructors in pinyin, so there were often students who came over to watch the fun. Therefore, some students would occasionally call him Grandmaster. Yesterday, Lisa Schwan heard someone call him Grandmaster for the first time, and he almost knelt down. After that, he went over to the student and asked for the reason, and suddenly he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He was not even 15 years old, and he had already become someone's Grandmaster. Lisa Schwan ordered a meal, found a seat at random, and began to eat. To be honest, the food in the cafeteria was not delicious. It was completely incomparable to the food in the Lee family, but it was still bearable. "Hey, Grandmaster, is there no one here? How come Iron Egg isn't eating with you today?" A loud and clear voice sounded in his ear. Lisa Schwan raised his head and saw that it was the little bastard who first called him Grandmaster yesterday. His name was Sun Ziffin, and Lisa Schwan had almost been annoyed by Sun Ziffin's name yesterday. This guy was a top student in the Imperial College, but he had only gotten in because of his father's relationship. His father's name was Sun Fujia, and he was an amazing person. During the 5th year of the Tang Dynasty's Wuda era, he had obtained first place in the imperial examination and became the top scholar. He could be considered the first top scholar in China's history. After Li Er ascended the throne, he was bestowed with the title of Baron, living in Lun, and becoming a vice-chancellor of the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court was equivalent to the modern Supreme People's Court, and the vice-chancellor of the Supreme Court was equivalent to the vice-chancellor of the Supreme Court. It was a lower third-rank official, and there were usually 2 of them. Yuan Wendao, who had impeached Li Zixuan last time, was also a vice-chancellor of the Supreme Court. However, this guy was not as talented as Sun Fujia, so Sun Fujia was definitely more likely to be promoted to vice-chancellor of the Supreme Court. Li Zixuan lowered his head and continued to eat. He casually replied, "Yes, the Imperial College will be on holiday this afternoon." So Iron Egg went back. Sun Zifan had just sat down unceremoniously when he heard Li Zixuan's words. He immediately exclaimed, "Damn, why is the Imperial College on holiday early?" Sun Zifan immediately expressed that he could not accept the fact that the Imperial College was on holiday at the weekend. Li Zixuan pursed his lips. Sometimes, he really wondered if this unlucky kid was Sun Fujia's biological son. Logically speaking, since Sun Fujia could be the top scorer in the exam, even if his son's results were not top-notch, he should at least be polite, right? In the end, this guy was obviously the same as Cheng Chumo, a careless and rash person. However, he was much younger than Cheng Chumo, probably only in his teens. They just finished the exam this morning. I saw that they were working too hard, so it's not too much to give them half a day off, right? Even if Chancellor Kong knows about it, he can't say anything. Li Zixuan said faintly, but his words really attracted some hatred. Mr. Li, how can you do this? That's right, Professor Li. How can you give the people from the Imperial College such a long holiday? I can't take it anymore. When the students from the other schools who were eating nearby heard Li Zixuan's words, they all started to denounce him. Li Zixuan had been eating in the canteen recently and had become familiar with many students. As his personality was more casual and he was very young, about the same age as most of them, many students liked to talk to him. Sometimes they would make some harmless jokes, but Li Zixuan was not angry. Instead, he would go along with their jokes and tease them. This led to everyone calling him teacher, but they would always talk to him as if he was a good friend. Li Zixuan waved his hand and laughed. Who asked our Imperial College's students to have such outstanding results? As a teacher, of course, I have to sympathize with them. What's wrong with giving them half a day off? Suddenly, there was a wave of wailing from the surroundings. Damn! Sun Zifan put down his chopsticks, indicating that he could not take it anymore. He shouted exaggeratedly, "Grandmaster, do you still want people from the Imperial College? Quickly take me in as well." A 10-year-old kid was dancing and shouting there, looking very funny. Instantly, there was a wave of laughter from the surroundings. Chapter 194. In the canteen of the Imperial College. Hearing Sun Zifan's words, Li Zixuan put down his chopsticks, raised his head, and glanced at this joker. He said unhappily, "Go back and ask your father if he's willing to let you come to the School of Mathematics." It wasn't that Li Zixuan was belittling himself, but there was a hierarchy among the 6 schools of the Imperial College. The School of Mathematics, School of Books, and School of Law were basically at the bottom. The students of these 3 schools had to stand out in the annual assessment to have the chance to be promoted to the 4 gate schools, then the School of Imperial College, and finally the School of Imperial College. Sun Zifan was able to enter the School of Imperial College because his father was a 3rd-rank vice-chancellor of the Supreme Court. However, if his father was more powerful and was promoted to a 3rd-rank vice-chancellor of the Supreme Court, then he might be able to enter the Imperial College directly. Under the current hierarchy of the Imperial College, it would be strange if Sun Fujia was willing to let Sun Zifan go to the School of Mathematics. Sun Zifan chuckled and said, Grandmaster, my father already knows that you invented pinyin. He also admires you very much. Moreover, the Prince of Wei and the sons of the 3 dukes are currently studying in the School of Mathematics. Why wouldn't my father want me to go? Just tell me if you'll accept me as a student or not. Even if the sky collapsed, there would be a tall person watching over it. With Li Tai, Chung Chumo, Qin Huayu, and Yuchi Baolin, these awesome second-generation hedonistic sons of rich families leading the way, what other people had to worry about? Although Sun Zi fanned this fellow's mouth was unrestrained, his heart was clear. When the other students heard this joker's analysis, they all felt that it was reasonable. In this way, not only did the School of Mathematics have good benefits, the teachers were friendly, and there was also Li Tai, Chung Chumo, and these hedonistic sons of rich families supporting them. They didn't have to worry about their future. Only a fool wouldn't go to such a good place. Therefore, Li Zishuan's surroundings immediately became lively. Yes. Mr. Li, is your school still hiring? My name is Wang Wenhua. My results in mathematics were very good back then. Wang Wenhua, you're bullsh** Tang. You think your grades are better than mine? Dr. Li, don't listen to him. My grades are better than his. Please accept me. Grandmaster, please accept me. Take me in. Take me in. Collect your sister. Li Zishuan's forehead was full of black lines. He couldn't even eat. F***ck. If it were a group of female students crying and begging him to accept them, he would be very excited. At least it would prove that he was very manly. However, in front of him, there were some men clamoring for him to accept them. What the F***ck was this? Ahem. I can't make the decision on this matter. The rules of the directorate don't allow you to go wherever you want. You should go and talk to the chancellor. Li Zishuan hurriedly threw away the responsibility. If he really accepted them, he would offend a lot of people. When that time comes, how would he survive in the directorate? He might as well just throw the problem to Old Man Kong and let him have a headache. He originally thought that saying this would make Sun Zifen and the rest retreat. After all, as students, how many of them dared to meet the principal? However, he underestimated this fellow's character. When Sun Zifen heard that Li Zishuan didn't explicitly reject him, his eyes instantly lit up. He smiled and said, "Fine, if Chancellor Kong agrees to change classes with me. Grandmaster, you have to accept me." In his eyes, his father was a lower-class third-rank official. The Chancellor of the Directorate was also lower-class third rank. What was there to be afraid of? He wasn't afraid, but that didn't mean that all the students weren't afraid. There were also some gutsy students who secretly left the crowd. These people mostly relied on their own hard work to rise up from the 3 academies of mathematics, history, and law. They didn't have any background, so they didn't dare to follow Sun Zifen. However, there were still a lot of second generations who followed Sun Zifen and echoed, Yes. Zifen, I'll go with you to find Chancellor Kong. I'll go too. What's there to be afraid of? Let's go. After saying that, this group of people didn't even eat and ran out noisily to find Kong and Da. Li Zishuan was stunned. This group of bastards was really out of control. He shook his head and couldn't be bothered with them. Let Kong and Da have a headache. After a quick lunch, Li Zishuan came to a vermilion building in the center of the directorate. This could be considered the office building of the directorate's teachers. There were more than a dozen rooms of various sizes inside. Li Zishuan's position had been there since the beginning, but he hadn't been there before. 2 days ago, he didn't go back at noon and just rested there. During this time, he got to know quite a few teachers. Mr. Li, Professor Li. As soon as he entered the office, 2 of his colleagues greeted Li Zishuan. Strictly speaking, they were also Li Zishuan's students. Recently, Li Zishuan's reputation in the directorate was like the sun in the sky. It was necessary to show some respect. Assistant Zhao, Assistant Mao. You 2 haven't gone home yet? Li Zishuan chuckled and greeted the 2 of them. One of them was from the Four Gates Martial School, while the other was from the Imperial College. Both of them were decent people. At the very least, they wouldn't rely on their seniority to show off in front of newcomers. No, it's raining so heavily. How can we go back? Yes, that's true. They chatted for a while. Seeing that there was still a long time before the afternoon training, Li Zishuan returned to his seat and began to grade the papers. Zhao and Mao saw this and looked at each other in surprise. Although Li Zishuan came to the office 2 days ago, he only chatted with them for a while before lying on the table and sleeping. Today, he came to work here. Did the sun rise from the west? Lisa Schwann didn't care about what these two people thought. He picked up the vermilion brush and seriously graded the papers. It should be noted that the so-called vermilion brush was not a brush dipped in red ink, but a pigment made by grinding vermilion into powder. Its main chemical composition was mercury sulfide. Although this stuff was poisonous, it didn't dissolve in water and didn't evaporate easily. As long as it wasn't swallowed directly, it wouldn't be inhaled under normal circumstances. This was why Lisa Schwann dared to use this stuff. While Lisa Schwann was having an easy time, Kong Ingda was in complete misery. Old Kong had just finished his meal and returned to his single office. Just as he was about to take a nap, someone knocked on his door. "Chancellor, open the door. Students are looking for you." "Yes, Chancellor, quickly open the door. We're all looking for you." Kong Ingda heard the noise outside and frowned slightly. This was because he heard a few very familiar voices from the noisy crowd. The owners of these voices were all troublemakers from the directorate. Kong Ingda rubbed his head and got up to open the door. Chapter 195. Chancellor, I want to be transferred to the School of Mathematics. I also want to be transferred to the School of Mathematics. Me too, me too. When Kong Ingda opened the door, he was instantly stupefied by the chattering bastards in front of him. Transferred to the School of Mathematics? Ever since the directorate was divided into 6 academies, there had never been such a transfer from the top to the bottom. Sun Zifen, are you sure you want to be transferred from the School of Imperial Studies to the School of Mathematics? Kong Ingda frowned and asked. I'm sure. Chancellor, can you quickly transfer me to the School of Mathematics? Sun Zifen hurriedly nodded his head excitedly. What about you guys? Kong Ingda was in disbelief as he looked at the other students and asked. Chancellor, we all want to be transferred to the School of Mathematics. Kong Ingda was completely stupefied at this moment. He stared blankly for a moment before suddenly putting on a stern face and berating sternly Sun Zifen, who instigated all of you to be transferred to the School of Mathematics. Sun Zifen said with a blank face, Chancellor, no one instigated us. We all did it willingly. Yes, we all did it willingly. Kong Ingda asked with an ugly expression. Then do all of your elders know? Cough, my father still doesn't know. Sun Zifen coughed awkwardly. Transferring academies is an important matter. You all must discuss it with your elders. If they agree, then I will allow you all to do it. If they don't agree, then you all must reflect on your own actions today. Kong Ingda's thoughts turned and decided to drag it out like this. Otherwise, if so many students were to be transferred to the School of Mathematics all of a sudden, wouldn't that be a complete mess? Moreover, although these students were muddle-headed, Kong Ingda didn't believe that their fathers would also do muddle-headed things. Sun Zifen rolled his eyes and smiled as he agreed. Chancellor is right. I will go home today and ask for my father's opinion. After saying that, he bid farewell to the other wastrels and left. Kong Ingda's eyelids twitched fiercely as he felt that things weren't as simple as he thought. Lisa Schwann marked the test papers for a while. When he saw that it was almost time, he went to another classroom to prepare for the training session for the instructors. In the office, the other 2 teaching assistants naturally followed him. The afternoon training session was surprisingly smooth. After a little more than 2 hours, the last bit of pinyin knowledge was taught. Lisa Schwann let out a sigh of relief. He thought to himself that he was finally done with his work. In the future, he could continue to live a leisurely life. After the teachers finished asking their questions, Lisa Schwann dismissed the class in advance. He packed up his teaching materials in high spirits and prepared to go home. In this terrible weather, he should be cooped up at home, teasing his servant girl. Instead, he came out to give a lecture. God knows if his brain was flooded with water. I want to go home. Lisa Schwann's brain was now dominated by the strong desire to go home. As for the teacher's pinyin knowledge test, Kong Ingda was naturally responsible for it. Dr. Li, please wait. Just when Lisa Schwann finished packing up his things and was preparing to leave, he heard Kong Ingda's voice. Lisa Schwann secretly cursed his bad luck. Chancellor Kong, is there anything else? Lisa Schwann stopped and asked. Dr. Li, Sun Ziffin and the other students from the Imperial College want to be transferred to the Institute of Mathematics. Do you know about this? Kong Da chased after him and asked with a serious face. Li Zixuan opened his eyes wide in shock, and his face was filled with disbelief as he asked, "There is such a thing? That is really strange. I have never heard of such a strange thing. Could it be that Chancellor is purposely making fun of me? Even if he was beaten to death, he would never admit that it had anything to do with him. Moreover, this matter had nothing to do with him. It was the group of students who wanted to cause trouble." Kong Ingda saw Li Zixuan's exaggerated expression and frowned. He had nowhere to vent his anger. "Oh, then forget it. You can go now, Dr. Li." "Okay." Outside, Sanbao had already brought the carriage over. Li Zixuan took off his straw rain cape and got on the carriage. The carriage moved slowly and gradually out of the Imperial College and into the drizzling streets of Chang'an. Li Zixuan sat comfortably on the sofa and drank some hot water. He looked at the rain outside the window and was lost in thought. This scene reminded him of a modern poem, Dai Wangshu's Rainy Alley. It was a pity that he didn't have a girl with the same color and fragrance as a lilac beside him. All right, to put it more simply, this guy was starting to miss his wife again. Sigh. Ancient times have their good points, and modern times have their good points. Ancient beauties are pure and natural, and ancient beauties are more charming. Modern times have all kinds of high-tech. No matter where you are, no matter how far you are, when you miss your wife, you can send her a message, call her, or even accept a video call. Li Zixuan muttered to himself. He did not expect that after experiencing so many years of long-distance love in modern times, he would still have to endure the pain of a long-distance love for a few months after transmigrating to ancient times. Although this so-called long-distance love was only a few dozen miles away, due to secular etiquette, this few dozen miles was a gap that he and Han Yushi could not cross in these few months. "Young master, we are home." Just as Li Zixuan was lost in his thoughts, the carriage arrived at the Li residence. Li Zixuan came back to his senses. He got off the carriage and took the oil paper umbrella from Sanbao. He walked alone to the west courtyard. Sanbao looked at Li Zixuan's back and scratched his head in confusion. He felt that his young master was a little off today, but he couldn't pinpoint exactly what was wrong. "Young master, you are back? Xiaoxi will go to the kitchen to make a bowl of ginger soup for you to get rid of the cold." When he returned to the west courtyard, he met Xiaoxi as soon as he entered the house. The little girl went up to Li Zixuan to wipe the rain off his face as she went to get the ginger soup for Li Zixuan. "Don't. Xiaoxi," Li Zixuan called out softly. Xiaoxi could hear that her young master's voice was a little off. She was startled and asked, "Young master, what's wrong?" "Ah, no, young master." It was Li Zixuan who turned around and hugged Xiaoxi tightly. The little girl was shocked by this sudden attack. She instinctively wanted to twist her body and break free from his embrace, but he hugged her even tighter. "Don't move. Let me hug you quietly for a while," Li Zixuan said softly. Xiaoxi saw that Li Zixuan was only hugging her and did not do anything out of line. The little girl felt relieved and stopped moving. She let Li Zixuan hug her quietly. After an unknown period of time, Xiaoxi felt that her body was getting heavier and heavier. After a while, she heard the sound of even breathing. It turned out that Li Zixuan had fallen asleep while hugging her. The smell on this little girl's body was simply too nice. Luckily, they were not standing too far away from the bed. Xiaoxi dragged Li Zixuan onto the bed and covered him with a blanket. The little girl saw the tired look on her young master's face and couldn't help but cry. She sobbed softly at the side. "Woo-woo, young master, you have worked hard." Chapter 196. Xiaoxi. Why did Shina go to sleep the moment he came back? Madame Li came to the west courtyard in the evening to look for her son, but was told by Xiaoxi that Li Zixuan had already fallen asleep. Madame Li could not help but ask in surprise, "Madam, young master has been too tired these few days, and young master seems to be missing young mistress." Xiaoxi's face turned red as she spoke. Madame Li froze for a moment. Just as she wanted to ask Xiaoxi how she knew that Li Zixuan missed his wife, she saw Xiaoxi's flushed face. Madame Li instantly thought that something must have happened between her son and this servant girl. However, as a mother, she did not dare to say too much about this matter. In any case, her son would definitely not be at a disadvantage. At that moment, she shook her head, looked at Xiaoxi strangely, and left. At the same time, she thought that her son's wedding date should be set earlier so that she could hug her chubby grandson earlier. Oh, madam, it's not what you think. When Xiaoxi saw Madame Li's strange gaze, she immediately came to a realization. She knew that Madame Li must have misunderstood, so she quickly explained. However, Madame Li was not going to listen to this explanation. Xianer, come. You didn't eat last night. Eat more today. In the morning, Li Zishuan was woken up by hunger. He only managed to make it in time to have breakfast with his mother. Yes. Thank you, mother, Li Zishuan said vaguely as he stuffed food into his mouth. You child, why are you being so courteous with me? My son has been working hard in the Imperial College these few days. Mother will make something good for you in the afternoon, Madame Li said with a smile. Yes. What else could Li Zishuan say? He could only nod his head happily. Xian, your wedding date with Yushi has been set. Daoist Qing Xian said that the 25th of next month is an auspicious day and is suitable for marriage. Your father, Han Li, and I are discussing. Although time is a little tight, with the manpower and resources of our Li family, we can definitely prepare it. Therefore, we have set your wedding date on the 25th of next month. Madame Li looked at her son and said kindly. Li Zishuan widened his eyes in surprise. After a moment, he reacted and said excitedly, Yes, this is great. Mother, I thought I would have to wait for at least 2 months. Look at how anxious you are. Xian, when you have a wife in the future, are you going to forget about mother? Mrs. Li couldn't help but tease her son when she saw that he couldn't wait to get married. How could I? Mother, don't worry. You will always be the most important person in my heart. Little rascal. Li Zishuan didn't have to go to school today, and after hearing such good news in the morning, he instantly forgot about the sadness in the rain yesterday afternoon. Now, he was in a mood to go out and have fun. However, there were only a few places he could go. After thinking about it, Li Zishuan decided to go to the workshop to check on the progress of the dictionary and newspaper compilation, as well as the development of the paper machine. Good morning, boss. As soon as he entered the workshop, a servant came over to greet him. Li Zishuan nodded and looked at the group of people surrounding the east side of the courtyard. He couldn't help but ask curiously, What are they doing? Boss, I heard that the paper machine was completed yesterday afternoon. Today, Manager Fu and young Master Yin are trying it out. The servant replied respectfully. Oh, Li Zishuan was delighted. With Yin shouting involved in the development of the paper machine, the progress was indeed much faster. He was really lucky today. Go ahead, I'll go over there and take a look. Li Zishuan waved his hand and lifted his foot to walk over. Zhao, control the horse's speed. Zhang Xiaohua, go and fill the pulp pool. Guolu, go and lead the ox. As soon as he got close to the crowd, he heard Yin shouting, giving out orders like a marshal. Look, paper is coming out. The paper is so big, and the paper is coming out so fast. The thickness of the paper is also quite uniform. According to this speed, it will probably only take a few breaths of time for one cut of paper to come out, right? Generally, one cut of paper refers to 100 sheets. Yes. As soon as Li Zishuan squeezed into the crowd, he saw a huge and cumbersome machine standing in the open space on the east side of the workshop. The monster-like machine, under the pull of the animal, made caw-caw sounds of parts rubbing against each other. The paper was quickly coming out of the paper outlet. There were wooden shelves under the paper outlet. After the paper was sent to the shelves, the craftsman immediately took the paper to the side to dry it. Overall, the paper production efficiency was very high. Success. Great, we did it. Seeing that the paper machine could come out normally for 15 minutes, the group of craftsmen standing beside Yin shouting couldn't help but cheer excitedly. God knows how much effort they had put in over the past few days. Shouting, Li Zishuan saw that their excitement was almost over and walked over. Xiao Xian, why are you here? Good morning, boss. Good morning, boss. Congratulations. This paper machine will be the cornerstone of our Tang Dynasty's education industry in the future. The effort you have put in today will be enough to leave your names in history. In the future, every piece of paper used by the scholars of our Tang Dynasty will be credited to you. All of you are good. Li Zixuan looked at the true technical backbone of the workshop in front of him. Among them, the older ones already had white hair, while the younger ones had just turned 20. As craftsmen, they lived at the bottom of society, but their creativity was comparable to a regular army. They deserved to be respected. Looking at them, Li Zixuan couldn't help but think of the scientists in his previous life who work hard on the front lines of research. They also worked hard, but a lifetime of research couldn't even compare to the money a celebrity could earn from acting in a movie. At the thought of this, Li Zixuan couldn't help but shout. He felt injustice for the craftsmen. "Oh, we are good." Li Zixuan's words made the craftsmen's blood boil. They worked overtime because Li Zixuan treated them extremely well in the workshop, so they wanted to repay him. They had never imagined that the thing they made would have such great meaning behind it. Thus, these craftsmen couldn't help but cheer. All the craftsmen who participated in the development of the paper machine will be rewarded with 2 strings of cash. Now, go back and have a good rest. Your health is your greatest asset. Li Zixuan looked at the craftsmen in front of him. Although most of them had excited expressions, the exhaustion in their eyes couldn't be concealed. Thus, he hurriedly had them go back and rest. Hearing that they would be rewarded with 2 strings of cash, the craftsmen who had just been satisfied on a spiritual level were now satisfied on a material level. They bowed and expressed their thanks. "Thank you, boss. Thank you, young master." Li Zixuan hurriedly waved his hand and said, Go and rest." Chapter 197. In the workshop of the strange interest pavilion, the craftsmen dispersed. Li Zixuan followed Faubert and Yin Shouting to a room and said, "Brother Faubert, Brother Shouting, thank you for your hard work these days." Faubert politely waved his hand and said, "It's no trouble at all." Yin Shouting, on the other hand, snorted in dissatisfaction. "It's really hard work. You are the one who came up with this idea. Logically speaking, you're the most suitable person to do this, and you'll be the fastest. But you just had to be lazy and leave everything to Faubert, causing us to work so hard." Li Zixuan pursed his lips. Why did this guy's tone sound like a disgruntled housewife? But when he heard the second half of Yin Shouting's sentence, he immediately complained, "Brother Shouting, I didn't slack off these 2 days. Recently, I've been teaching pinyin to the instructors of the Imperial College. I'm almost as tired as a dog." Yin Shouting was teased and laughed. He pretended to size up Li Zixuan and then teased, "Hey, little Xian, you really do look a little like a dog now." Puffed. Li Zixuan almost spat out a mouthful of blood. He said unhappily, "Chow, get lost." After joking around for a while, Li Zixuan began to talk business with Yin Shouting and the others. "Brother Shouting, how much is the output of our paper machine and the cost of producing paper?" Hearing this, Yin Shouting closed his eyes and pondered for a while. Then he opened his eyes and said, "According to my preliminary estimation, the paper production efficiency of a paper machine is about 30 to 40 times that of manual labor. Moreover, the paper produced by the paper machine has a uniform thickness and is more delicate. The quality seems to be better than the current Xian paper. Overall, the cost of our paper is about 20 copper coins per cut. As far as I know, the cost of paper for other paper mills in Chong is about 500 copper coins per cut. Moreover, their paper is still in short supply. When the time comes, not only will our paper be cheaper than theirs, but the quality will also be better. I believe that once our workshop starts producing at full capacity, the traditional Xian paper will be completely replaced by our paper." Hearing Yin Shouting's confident words, Li Zixuan was slightly surprised. He didn't expect that the paper production cost could be reduced to 1/25 of the original through the paper machine. It was really amazing. Marx said that if capital had 50% profit, it would risk everything. If it had 100% profit, it would dare to break all the laws of the world. If it had 300% profit, it would dare to commit any crime, even at the risk of being hanged. If Li Zixuan sold the paper from the workshop at the price of ordinary paper, he would earn more than 25 times the profit. This huge profit was enough to make anyone go crazy. The three people in the room gradually thought of this. The three of them were shocked by the high profit, and their breathing became rapid. Li Zixuan shook his head and forced himself to wake up. The purpose of his paper machine wasn't to make money, but to let the poor be able to read. It wasn't that he was a saint or that there was something wrong with his brain. It was just that he had promised Ma Zhou that he would let everyone in Tang be able to read. Li Zixuan had to do what he said. As for money, it was something that he couldn't earn in his lifetime. If he really wanted to make money, there were many ways. Brother shouting, "Faubert, our new paper can't be sold at an expensive price. My original intention of inventing the paper machine wasn't to make money. In my opinion, the price of a new paper should be set at 30 to 40 copper coins per cut. What do you think?" Li Zixuan used 20% of his internal energy and said in a deep voice, "Wealth moved people's hearts." In the face of such a huge profit, even Faubert and Yin shouting almost lost their minds, let alone the others. Absolutely not. Young master, if you set the price like this, wouldn't you offend all the paper mills in the world? At that time, a large number of craftsmen will lose their jobs. Faubert had just been awakened by Li Zixuan's shout and heard Li Zixuan's shocking price. His heart trembled, and he quickly dissuaded him. "Yeah, Xiaoxian, if you set the price like this, it will be a devastating blow to the rice paper mills." Yin shouting couldn't help but say. Li Zixuan frowned. Faubert and Yin shouting's thoughts were still somewhat stubborn and conservative. During the First Industrial Revolution in England, it also had a devastating impact on the traditional handicraft industry. In the end, large machinery production replaced the inefficient handicraft industry, which also caused a large number of traditional craftsmen to lose their jobs. But didn't England survive in the end? Not only that, England also became the world's largest country after the First Industrial Revolution. Shouting, "Faubert, in the future, our workshop will have batches and batches of new technology. At that time, do you still want us to adapt to the backward handicraft production of this era? The purpose of our development of new technology is to break the inefficient and backward technology of the current era. As the era progresses, so does technology. We should let people catch up and adapt to the pace of our new technology. Under the rolling wheel of the era, those who can't catch up with the new technology will be eliminated. In this era, there is no waiting and there is no sympathy. Our Strange Taste Pavilion Workshop must lead the new technology trend and promote the technological innovation of the entire Tang Dynasty." Li Zixuan felt that he had to correct Yin shouting and Faubert's thoughts. These two were the top technical backbone of the workshop. If their thoughts were shackled and they did things fearfully, it wouldn't be good for the development of the workshop. Good. Under the rolling wheel of the era, those who can't catch up with the new technology will be eliminated. Li Zixuan, I've underestimated you. Just when Faubert and Yin shouting were still immersed in Li Zixuan's enlightening impromptu speech, Li Er's laughter came from outside the room. Li Zixuan was speechless. Why did the people of the old Li family like to eavesdrop on others? Last time, it was Li Chengxian. This time, it was Li Er himself. This father and son pair was really unique. After Li Er's laughter came, he pushed open the door and entered without any hesitation. Emperor Zhongsun was accompanying him. In the room, Faubert and Yin shouting finally reacted. Both of them were shocked and quickly bowed. "Your humble subjects pay respects to your majesty. Your majesty. Your humble subjects pay respects to your majesty. Your majesty." Li Zixuan was helpless and could only follow suit. Although he hadn't seen Zhongsun before, this woman could wear a phoenix coronet and a red robe beside Li Zixuan. Moreover, Yin shouting just said that this was the empress. Li Zixuan wasn't stupid. Li Er waved his hand and laughed. "Haha, all rise. Li Zixuan, come here. I just heard you say that the cost of your new paper is only 20 copper coins. Is this true?" Li Zixuan was speechless. "Didn't you eavesdrop just now? Why are you still asking when you already know the answer? You're really too free. Your Majesty, This is only our initial estimate of the cost. However, the final result is not far off. Even though he was cursing crazily in his heart, Lisa Schwan could only answer obediently. Chapter 198. Good, good. With your cheap and high-quality paper and the upcoming Pinyin version of the Tang Dynasty Dictionary, I estimate that in less than 5 years, the scholars of Tang Dynasty will spring up like bamboo shoots after the rain. This is a great achievement for the present and benefits for the future. Li Er sat at the head of the table with Zhang Sun and couldn't help but praise. Zhang Sun smiled and said, "I congratulate your majesty. Hundreds of years ago, Qin Huang and Han Wu failed to achieve the great cause of educating the people. Now your majesty is likely to achieve it." The empress is right. Li Er was delighted and was very proud. Li Zishuan curled his lips. You didn't invent the paper-making machine and Pinyin, so what are you so proud of? Also, is it really okay for you husband and wife to flatter each other and show off your love in public? Aren't you just bullying me because I haven't married yet? When I get married, I will pull my wife along every day and show off my love in front of you. Yesterday, I heard that your workshop had made a paper-making machine, so I brought the Empress to see the effects of this thing. I didn't expect it to be so much beyond my expectations. Lisa Schwan, your workshop has done well this time. Later, do a summary of the relevant personnel and submit it to me. I will reward all of them. The first part was all nonsense, which made Lisa Schwan roll his eyes. However, the last part of Lier's sentence was very conscientious. Lisa Schwan was invigorated when he heard it. He quickly put on an act and cupped his hands and said, "On behalf of the workshop's 3,000 craftsmen, I thank your majesty for your kindness." Puffed. Lier spat out a mouthful of tea and immediately choked. He said in a bad mood, "What 3,000 craftsmen? I am talking about the craftsmen who participated in the development of the paper-making machine. Are you going to report all the craftsmen in the workshop?" Replying to your majesty, the development of the paper-making machine, whether it was the smallest part or the huge wheel, whether it was the logistics or the front line of production, there were countless craftsmen in the workshop. The reason why the paper machine can be made in such a short time is definitely not something that can be done by just a few dozen people. It can't be done without the efforts of every craftsman. Although Li Zishuan's words were a little exaggerated, they were basically the truth. The structure of the paper machine was not simple. To be able to make it in such a short time was really a miracle. However, behind every so-called miracle, there were countless people who worked hard in silence. This time was no exception. He had just learned from Yin Xiaoning that during the few days of the paper-making machine's development, the entire workshop was in a state of overload. All the craftsmen in the workshop were dedicating themselves to the development of the paper-making machine. Among them, some were at the front desk, directly responsible for research and development, but most were behind the scenes. They were all on standby 24 hours a day, providing the most reliable logistical support for the research and development personnel at the front desk in all aspects. It was this kind of fighting spirit that led to the success of the paper-making machine in such a short time. After listening, Li Zishuan was silent for a long time. He could also see that when Li Zishuan said those words, there was sincerity in his eyes. It was easy to reward 30 people, but how could he reward 3,000 people? But if he didn't reward them, then where would he put his face as the emperor? To be honest, Li Zishuan was really in a dilemma. Your Majesty, I think that it would be better to let the 3,000 craftsmen in this workshop work under the general work supervisor. They are different from ordinary general work supervisors in that they are only in name. Normally, they still work in a men's workshop in Li County. Secondly, His Majesty would bestow upon them some scattered official positions, such as generals and scholars. In this way, these craftsmen would at least have an official position, and no one would look down upon them in the future. What do you think, Your Majesty? Seeing that Li Zishuan was in a dilemma, Zhang Sun had a bright idea and suggested. Li Zishuan's eyes lit up. This Zhang Sun was indeed worthy of the title of Great Tang's virtuous empress. She really saw the problem very clearly. Her analysis was right. At present, the craftsmen in the workshop lack the recognition of the outside world the most. Otherwise, they would still be the craftsmen living at the bottom. He raised his eyes and secretly glanced at Zhang Sun. He saw her sitting high in the seat of honor. Her facial features were beautiful, her body was graceful, and her bones revealed a graceful aura. Li Zishuan cursed in his heart. I don't know how Li Zishuan got lucky to marry such a perfect wife. Good, good. The Empress is right. Li Zishuan, what do you think of this? Li Zishuan smiled happily. Li Zishuan quickly replied, I have no objection. Your Majesty is wise. Your Majesty is benevolent. Li Zishuan slapped the table and said, Good. I will write the decree later. Yin Xiaoning and Faubert looked at each other and couldn't help but be happy. Li Zishuan, Yin Xiaoning, Fu Yuanqi, when the Tang dictionary is finished, I will reward the three of you separately. Li Zishuan was very generous today. He had just rewarded 3,000 people, and now he promised to reward the three of them. Li Zishuan really didn't know what was wrong with Li Zishuan, but if there were benefits to be gained, only a fool would refuse. He, Yin Xiaoning, and Faubert went forward to express their gratitude. Thank you, Your Majesty. Li Zishuan nodded happily. He was really happy today. No one could understand the great significance of the paper machine better than him. It could destroy the foundation of the aristocratic families. Li Zishuan, you said before that under the rolling wheel of time, whoever can't catch up with the new technology will be eliminated. In this era, there is no waiting and there is no sympathy. I agree with this very much. Do it boldly. I am looking forward to what this workshop will change Tang Dynasty into in the future. I joined the army when I was young and was about to conquer the world. I like your drive to forge ahead. Li Zishuan's blood was boiling. He thought to himself that today's trip wasn't in vain. Li Zishuan couldn't help but be excited when old Li was so sure of his radical thinking. He went forward and said, Thank you, Your Majesty, for your trust. I believe that the changes that the workshop will bring to Tang Dynasty in the future will definitely surprise Your Majesty. Zhang Sun couldn't help but cover her mouth and chuckle. Your Majesty, this child is young, but his tone is really big. Li Zishuan held Zhang Sun's hand and stood up with a smile. Ha, Li Zishuan, I will wait and see. Farewell, Your Majesty, farewell. The few people in the room bowed again. Xiaoxian, we did well this time. I guess it won't be long before our workshop is famous in Chang'an, right? Not only that, this time, we gained both fame and profit. Li Zishuan laughed and said, Haha, you are satisfied with just this? Don't worry. There will be more opportunities in the future to make you even more satisfied. Chapter 199. Hey, Xiaoning, I still want to make another type of paper machine. Hey, don't go. Come take a look. Li Zishuan suddenly thought of toilet paper. Now that the paper machine had been made, he only needed to add a scraper to it to make toilet paper. Therefore, he wanted to ask Yin Xiaoning to make a toilet paper machine, who knew that this guy would turn around and leave before he finished listening. Li Zishuan quickly pulled him back. Puffed. It's easy for you to say that. We worked tirelessly for so many days to make a paper machine, and you want to do something new? If you're so good, then do it. Don't call me. I have to go back and rest. Yin Xiaoning spat in exasperation. Cough, cough. Xiaoning, listen to me first. This paper machine doesn't need to be troublesome. Its general structure is similar to the paper machine you made before. It's just that its dryer is more special. It's a dryer with a large diameter. On the other side of the dryer, there's a scraper to remove the wrinkles from the paper. Li Zishuan pulled Yin Xiaoning and explained. Yin Xiaoning was puzzled. If you do it this way, won't the paper be soft and fluffy? How do you write on this kind of paper? Faubert thought for a while and nodded in agreement. Yes, young master. The paper you make can't be used at all. Li Zishuan immediately retorted. Who said it can't be used? This kind of paper is soft and fluffy. Wouldn't it be extremely comfortable to use it to wipe your butt in the toilet? Yin Xiaoning's face was full of black lines. He was really speechless towards Li Zishuan. Don't you have toilet paper chips to use in the toilet? Why do you have to do this? Li Zishuan stomped his feet. Damn, The toilet paper is so hard. How do you use it? How can it be more comfortable than this soft paper? This was the most unacceptable thing for Lisa Schwann after he transmigrated. He could live without a computer or a phone, but he couldn't live without toilet paper. Why the F asterisk CK do you want me to use bamboo to wipe my butt? Then what do you usually use in the toilet, young master? Faubert couldn't help but ask. Cough, cough. I asked someone to make the rice paper soft before using it. But this is really troublesome, Lisa Schwann said after thinking for a while. Faubert and Yin shouting suddenly felt a toothache. They really wanted to beat him up. What a waste. You brat. You're simply a refined scum. Yin shouting couldn't help but point at Lisa Schwann's nose and scold. Lisa Schwann rubbed his nose and felt very helpless. Isn't it just wiping your ass with a piece of paper? It's so normal. Is there a need for that? In the end, Yin shouting agreed to Lisa Schwann's request. There was no other reason other than Lisa Schwann saying that this thing could also make a lot of money. After reducing the cost of paper, Lisa Schwann let out a sigh of relief. As long as paper could be mass-produced, many of his later plans could be carried out smoothly. Well, the most important thing was that the toilet paper problem was solved. He could finally see the most commonly used industrial product in ancient times. This made him feel a little closer. After leaving the room, Lisa Schwann went to the back hall. He wanted to see how Ma Zhou and the others were progressing. When he pushed the door open and entered, he saw that there was an earth-shattering change inside. Dozens of tables were arranged in the hall. Each table was piled with all kinds of information. Then, dozens of middle-aged scholars were bent over the tables, carefully checking and recording. These must be the scholars sent by Li Tai and Li Chengxian. Lisa Schwann's arrival didn't cause any waves. Perhaps in these people's eyes, Lisa Schwann wasn't as important as the documents in their hands. Lord Zhu, you're here? Ma Zhou quietly came up to greet him. Lisa Schwann nodded and also said softly, Yes, Brother Ma, let's talk somewhere else. Everyone here was busy with their own things. Lisa Schwann really didn't have the heart to break the silence. When they came to the next room, the two of them sat down. Lisa Schwann asked, Brother Ma, how is the compilation of the dictionary going? Ma Zhou cupped his hands and answered, Lord Zhu, His Highness the Crown Prince and His Highness the King of Wei attached great importance to this matter. They sent a total of 12 scholars. A few days ago, the compilation of the dictionary was fully launched. Currently, it is steadily being carried out. Brother Ma, did these scholars deliberately make things difficult for you? Were they arrogant and rude? Ma Zhou looked a little embarrassed. He hesitated and said, It didn't make things difficult. The compilation of the dictionary is more important than anything else. Presumably, Crown Prince and King of Wei have already told them. However, most of these scholars are knowledgeable people. They are more or less arrogant. I can understand. Lisa Schwann frowned slightly. He had deliberately emphasized to Li Chengxian and Li Tai that the main person in charge of the compilation of the dictionary was Ma Zhou. He didn't expect that when it came to the final moment, those people would secretly look down on Ma Zhou. Brother Ma, who's been rude to you before? Tell me. I will tell Crown Prince and King of Wei. Lisa Schwann had always attached great importance to Ma Zhou. Now, how could he sit by and do nothing? Ma Zhou quickly waved his hand and said, Lord Zhu, there is no need to do this. Ma Zhou is just a commoner. Those scholars belong to the rank 6 imperial residence or the Eastern Palace. It is natural for me to be looked down on. However, I should be the one to fight back. Ma Zhou believes that with his talent and knowledge, I will definitely be able to make these scholars look down on me. Ma Zhou's meaning was clear. He would get back the face he lost in the future. Lisa Schwann smiled and said, Brother Ma is so bold. Just based on this point, those scholars can't compare to Brother Ma. Lord Zhu, you flatter me. Haha, that's good. If Brother Ma needs help in the future, just let me know. Oh, the workshop has finished the paper-making machine today. Our paper cost has been greatly reduced. Brother Ma, you can start the newspaper and the copying of ancient books. The most basic and most important technology of Qitu culture had been prepared. The copying of ancient books for sale and the publishing of newspapers had been completed. There were no more obstacles. Yes, Lord Zhu is right. I have heard about the trial production of the paper-making machine today. I'm also preparing for it. A few days ago, I have selected 10 ancient books from the king of Wei's residence. We can start printing them. In less than 5 days, we can print 4 to 500 books and sell them at Chitu Culture Bookstore. Ma Zhou spoke slowly as if everything was under his control. Li Zixuan nodded and smiled. Yes, that's great. Brother Ma, it seems that we will be able to let all the scholars in Tang be able to read books soon. Ma Zhou said happily, that is true. Every time I think about participating in the cause of universal education, I am very excited. Now that I think about it, joining the workshop was probably the best decision I have made in my life. Oh, by the way, according to Lord Ju's previous suggestion, I have made a new edition of the newspaper. Lord Ju, do you think it is suitable? Chapter 200. In the back hall of the workshop. Li Zixuan's eyes lit up when he heard Ma Zhou say that he had made a new edition of the newspaper. He said impatiently, Brother Ma, let me take a look. Please wait a moment, Lord Ju. Ma Zhou replied and went to get the materials. After a while, he came back in and handed Li Zixuan a stack of papers. Lord Ju, this is the new edition of the newspaper. Please take a look. Li Zixuan smiled and nodded as he took the papers. He opened them and looked at them carefully. Detailed explanation of punctuation. This was the first section of the newspaper. It seemed that Ma Zhou had thought about it thoroughly. He wanted people to accept punctuation as soon as possible. Next was the interactive section of the literati. Li Zixuan had said that this section could be written in classical Chinese. The content and format were not much different from last time. On Taizong Shu, in ancient times, those who were not subjects were all subjects to His Majesty. Those who were not under His Majesty's control were all under His Majesty's control. Explanation of Jingguan law. It is said, man, 3 talents and 10,000 things are divided. Qi contains spirit, and man is the leader. Li Zixuan felt that this section was boring. He thought to himself, I'll leave this section for the literati of Tang Dynasty to spit at each other. In any case, this young master will not read it in the future. The second section was the current news. Li Zixuan was excited. He wanted to see what Ma Zhou would write this time. As soon as he saw it, he could not take his eyes off it. Shocking. Murderer is so deranged, exterminating an entire family. This content was considered normal. It only talked about a massacre that had just been solved in Xinfeng County not long ago. The process was quite complicated. As Ma Zhou did not use classical Chinese this time, Li Zixuan was very interested. He carefully read the whole story. Next article. The drunken scholar met the courtesan of the brothel and did such a despicable thing. When Li Zixuan saw the title, he thought that the drunken scholar had used the alcohol to force himself on the brothel's top courtesan. But when he looked down, he immediately vomited blood. It turned out that the drunken scholar had drunk too much and had the urge to pee, so he had peed on the side of the road. Who knew that the brothel's top courtesan had seen him and scolded the scholar for being vulgar. As a result, the two had an argument, which finally alarmed the Chong and Marshal Marquis. Chong and Wu Ho rushed to the widow Zhao Zhuangyi's house in the middle of the night, and the reason was actually like this. Seeing this title, you will definitely think that Wu Ho went to the widow's house to have an affair, right? Li Zixuan also thought so at first, but in the end, it was not the case. Wu Ho only went to the widow's house to put out the fire, and from the beginning to the end, it was just a piece of news about a fire. Shocking. A woman actually dared to do such a thing in broad daylight. What is it? You must have thought it was something embarrassing, right? In the end, the woman's skill was just a bit better, and she met a thief on the street. She was not robbed by the thief, but instead captured the thief. Shocking. Shocking. Men will be silent. Women will cry. All right, after reading up to this point, Li Zixuan was already immune to it. As expected, the content was just a notice that Chitu Culture was offering a large sum of money for a literary competition. Ma Zhou was F***king, trying to stir up trouble. After seeing the current news section, Li Zixuan was really shocked, and his mouth was wide open. At this moment, he really wanted to say to Ma Zhou, Brother 666666666. Tomorrow, please come to the UC shock department to work. Even if you beat him to death, he would never have thought that Ma Zhou, who had received a traditional Confucian education, would be able to use the shocking words he had said last time, and so quickly learn how to use it. This was simply too much of a prank, okay? He wondered if Li Er would come and kill him if he knew that his future prime minister had been trained to such a state by him. How is it? How is it, Lord Zhu? When Ma Zhou saw that Li Zishuan had finished reading the current news section, he hurriedly asked with a face full of expectation. For this new version of the current news, he had pondered over the words Li Zishuan had said that day for a long time before he understood some of the essence, and then he tried to change it into this. Li Zishuan covered his face and said, Okay. Brother Ma, your change this time is really great. This little brother really admires you. Just print it like this, the faster the better. Now we can make our own paper. You better have Master Lu arrange for the first batch of newspapers to be printed within these 2 days. The first batch of newspapers should be printed in 1,000 copies. When the time comes, remember to recruit a group of children from poor families to help sell the newspapers. Li Zishuan was a little flustered at this moment. He was originally such an excellent and honest great scholar. How did he become like this? Whose fault is it? Anyway, it's not my fault. This young master didn't mean to be like this. Ma Zhou felt that Li Zishuan's expression was a little strange, but he couldn't figure out where the problem was at the moment, so he could only agree. Yes, Lord Zhu. Now the workshop has a lot of ready-made technologies. I estimate that I can rush out the first batch of newspapers tomorrow, and by the morning of the day after tomorrow, it can be sold in Chang'an City. Li Zishuan nodded. He had introduced another modern product into the Tang Dynasty. In the future, when he had nothing to do at home, he could read the newspaper. In this era where entertainment and culture were extremely lacking, to be able to lie on the chair and read the newspaper was already a great enjoyment for Li Zishuan. Brother Ma, newspapers and dictionaries are the most important things in the future of Qi culture. During this period of time, you have to work hard and pay attention to these 2 things. After this period of busy, you can go and find a group of assistants. As long as you think that it's suitable, no matter how much it costs, you have to hire them. This way, you won't have to work so hard in the future. Li Zishuan instructed. Thank you for your concern, Lord Zhu. Li Zishuan couldn't be bothered to read the last section of Dahua Jianghu. Although he had high hopes for this section, because he could read novels from here in the future, but currently there was only one novel written by him, so it wasn't very interesting to read it. After a while, when someone submitted a novel, he would pay more attention to this section. When he thought about it, countless scholars would fight to submit to Qi culture, and countless wonderful novels would appear. He just had to stay at home, sleep on the chair, and listen to Xiao Shi softly reading the novel to him. If he was happy listening to the novel, he would spend a lot of money and give the novel author a big reward so that he could quickly release more chapters for him. Damn, this kind of life, just thinking about it makes me feel good, right? This is the life of a nouveau riche second-generation otaku. Li Zishuan couldn't help but drool as he thought about it. He seemed to have discovered something amazing. Chapter 201. Selling newspapers. Selling newspapers. Freshly printed Tang daily. Only 5 copper coins per copy. 5 copper coins won't make you lose out or get scammed, but you could buy a big Tang daily. Brother, do you want to buy one? After spending the weekend happily at home, Li Zishuan sat in a carriage early in the morning and headed to class at the Imperial College. Inside the carriage, he could hear the sound of children hawking newspapers outside. Li Zishuan asked Sanbao to stop the carriage first. He looked out through the window and saw 4 or 5 children wearing blue shirts with the logo of queer culture on them. They were holding newspapers and riding on scooters. They were peddling newspapers on the streets and alleys of Chang'an City. This was one of the benefits for the children of Qi culture who sold newspapers. They usually had scooters as a means of transportation. If they sold newspapers for 3 months in a row, the scooters would be given to them for free. This directly led to the long queue in front of the workshop when they were recruiting paperboys yesterday. Later, Majo only picked 40 to 50 clever children after much deliberation. Hey, which family are you from? What the hell is this newspaper? What's in it? At this time, he heard a man speaking in a rough voice. Uncle, this newspaper has articles by great scholars and some interesting things that have happened around Chang and recently. There are also some novels serialized in it. It's very interesting. Oh, I'm not interested in the articles by great scholars, but I want to read the novels. Kid, give me a copy of the newspaper. Here, uncle, for you. 5 copper coins per copy. Hiss, this newspaper is so big, and the words on it are all engraved and printed. It's only 5 copper coins. Kid, did you remember wrongly? Don't go back, and your shopkeeper will punish you just because you remembered wrongly. This person was still a conscientious person and was not willing to take advantage of child. He opened the newspaper and was immediately shocked by the size of the newspaper. Such a big newspaper must be worth more than 5 copper coins. That's right. Could it be that you remembered wrongly? Even if there's nothing written on such a big piece of rice paper, it's still worth more than 5 copper coins. At this moment, a passerby walked over and looked at the newspaper in the burly man's hand. The paperboy politely bowed and cupped his hands. Thank you for your concern, uncles. But this newspaper is only sold for 5 copper coins per copy, so it can't be wrong. This was personally instructed by our manager. Oh my, is your manager an idiot? This is obviously a losing business. TSK, quickly give me a copy. Let's not talk about what's written on it first. 5 copper coins for such a big piece of paper. When I go back and paste it on the wall, it will show that I'm a cultured person. Pfft, Dumbo, you're such a disgrace. Little doll, give me a copy too. My ergo doll is studying in a school in Chang'an. He is literate. I'll buy it for him to read the essays of the great Confucian scholars. While you're at it, read the novels to me. Shoo. Butcher Zhao, you're here to show off your ergo doll again. Ha. Li Zishuan shook his head. This was the first time these people bought a newspaper, and they bought it for the cheap price. It was really, Simbao, let's go. Let's go to the Imperial College. Li Zishuan said aloud. The people who bought the newspaper now were just some people who liked the novelty. The real popularity of the newspaper was definitely not because of these people. However, this was a good start. With this first batch of people taking the initiative to promote, the follow-up effect would be better. Yes, young master, San Bao replied, and the carriage continued to move slowly. Imperial College, School of Mathematics. In this weekly exam, there are a total of 3 people who scored full marks. They are Li Tai, Kusher Qing, and Iron Egg. There are 2 people who scored 99. They are Zheng Ziren and Meng Wenhao. These students are the top 5 of this weekly exam. Excellent. Everyone, give them a round of applause. Li Zishuan stood on the podium and looked at the report card in his hand and said, he felt that it was a pity for Meng Wenhao. This kid wrote a step that was slightly ambiguous in a proof question. Li Zishuan thought about it again and deducted 1 point from him. As a result, this unlucky kid would not be able to get into the top 3. Clap, clap, clap. The students in the classroom, regardless of what they were thinking, whether they were jealous or not, all of them applauded together with Li Zishuan. Although Meng Wenhao was a little annoyed, he had just looked at the paper that was handed out. There were indeed some small problems in that part of the paper. He was sincerely convinced by the deduction of 1 point. As for the last 5 of this weekly exam, as the applause gradually stopped, Li Zishuan said loudly again. However, he deliberately paused for a moment and then looked at the back row. Chung Chumo's chrysanthemum. Oh no, his heart suddenly tightened. He then repeatedly winked at Li Zishuan, hinting him not to say it out loud. As for the last 5, I won't mention them today. You should know who they are. Oh no, you should know who they are. Li Zishuan's heavy breathing almost scared Chung Chumo to death. However, when he heard that Li Zishuan still did not mention his name, he could not help but feel a little happy. Here, this is the solution to the last question. Those who did it wrong, take a good look at it and clear your thoughts. You must make sure that you will not make a mistake the next time you encounter the same question. After a simple introduction of the results, Li Zixuan began to explain the test paper to them. The questions were relatively simple, so he explained them quickly. In less than one class, he had finished explaining. Damn, this is great. This novel is so King great. This brother is too good. Suddenly, a roar came from the classroom, scaring all the students. Li Zixuan was also a little startled, but then he became angry. He quickly found the source of the sound and shouted angrily, "What the hell? Wang Meng, stand up." Wang Meng suddenly shivered. In fact, after he shouted, he had already sobered up. Now that he heard Li Zixuan's angry voice, how could he not know that he had already eaten a pill? "Sir, I was wrong." Wang Meng's face was bitter, and his voice was trembling. Li Zixuan sneered. "Humph, now you know you were wrong. What were you doing just now?" Wang Meng hesitated and did not dare to say anything. Li Zixuan sternly shouted, "What are you waiting for? Do you want to quit school?" Wang Meng did not dare to hesitate anymore. He quickly took out a piece of paper from under his seat and said anxiously, Don't, sir, I'll tell you. I was reading a novel just now. This is what I bought from a newspaper boy on my way to school. It's called newspaper." The other students looked at it curiously, wanting to know what kind of magical item this newspaper was. On the other hand, Li Zixuan's old face darkened. Of all his calculations, he did not expect that running a newspaper would make students addicted to novels and affect their studies. In modern times, bad students often did this in class. He did not expect to encounter it in ancient times as well. Wasn't this like shooting himself in the foot? Chapter 202. Inside the School of Mathematics. Li Zixuan's face turned from green to white, then from white to red. Wang Meng was so scared that his heart was trembling. He had never seen Li Zixuan so angry before. "Wang Meng, tell us how many points you got this time," Li Zixuan said with hatred. When Cheng Chimo heard this, he grinned and looked at Wang Meng with a gloating expression. Wang Meng replied weakly, Sir, this time I got 66 points." Li Zixuan slammed the table and said angrily, "You only got 66 points, and you didn't pay attention in class? If you can get full marks like Li Tai and Ke Shirqing, I won't criticize you even if you didn't pay attention. Are you serious?" At this moment, Li Tai's eyes lit up and he asked excitedly. Li Zixuan's face was filled with black lines. This bastard never knew how to give him any face. "Shut up. I'm talking about Wang Meng," Li Zixuan said angrily. Wang Meng couldn't be angry anymore. He said softly, "Sir, I was wrong." "Is the novel good?" Li Zixuan asked fiercely. "Yes." Sir, it's not good. It's not good at all. It's not good at all. It's terrible. I was obsessed with it." Wang Meng was about to say that it was good, but he quickly changed his words. Li Zixuan nodded, but he suddenly realized that something was wrong. He was the one who wrote the novel. Wasn't Wang Meng scolding him by saying that? He couldn't stand it anymore. A piece of chalk hit Wang Meng's forehead accurately. Li Zixuan said even more angrily, "Why did you read it if it wasn't good? You'll be standing in class today." Feeling wronged, Wang Meng scratched his head and thought to himself, "I've already said so. Is it wrong? What did Sir mean by that?" Wang Meng, what are you reading in class? Take it out and show it to me." During the break, Cheng Chumo saw that Li Zixuan wasn't in the classroom. He quickly went to Wang Meng and asked him for the newspaper. "No, I won't be able to see it if I give it to you." Even though Wang Meng's legs hurt from standing for an entire class, his brain was still working fine. When he heard Cheng Chumo's words, he immediately reacted. He picked up the newspaper and hugged it tightly. "Wang Meng, you're such a disloyal brat. I'm just looking at it. I don't want your newspaper. Take it out and show it to me." Cheng Chumo was so anxious that he scratched his ears and cheeks like a monkey. That's right. Wang Meng, why don't you take it out and let everyone have a look? We definitely won't take yours. If it's really good, we'll go and buy another set." Yuchi Baolin chimed in. That's right. Take it out and let us have a look. We're all classmates. Don't be so stingy." Li Tai, the little fatty, also brought some students over to join the fun. At this moment, Wang Ming suddenly felt a lot of pressure. He felt like he was alone. All right, I'll let you have a look, but you must remember to return it to me. I haven't finished reading it yet. Wang Ming could only reluctantly hand over the newspaper. Otherwise, he really suspected that he would be attacked by the crowd. Don't worry, don't you dare ask around. I, Chung Chumo, am the most trustworthy person in Chang'an City. Chung Chumo waved his hand nonchalantly and said arrogantly. Then, he couldn't wait to take the newspaper and sat down next to him to start reading. The surrounding students also curiously surrounded Chung Chumo and began to bend over to read the newspaper. Chonyo, turn the page. What's so good about this scholarly article? That's right, that's right. Time is of the essence. Let's read the rest of the novel. Wang Ming was so engrossed in last class. Turn the page and let me see if this story is interesting or not. That's right, that's right. Hurry up and read the novel. Otherwise, class will start soon. All right. I, Chung Chumo, am not interested in these scholarly articles anyway. Chung Chumo felt that it made sense. Hence, he turned the page. Instantly, the words "a record of a mortal's journey" came into view. Wow, a record of a mortal's journey? Just the name alone sounds impressive. Cultivation? Could this novel be about cultivation? Could there really be people who can cultivate? I suddenly feel a surge of emotions. The students wanted to continue reading just by looking at the name of the novel. Chapter 1. A mountainside village. Dumbo's eyes were wide open as he stared at the black roof made of straw and mud. The old quilt covering his body had already turned a deep yellow, and its original appearance could not be seen. There was also a faint musty smell. After a moment, Chung Chumo finished reading the first chapter. He smacked his lips and said doubtfully, I, Chung Chumo, don't feel that this first chapter is very interesting. How could Wang Ming have been so engrossed in it before? It's really ordinary. However, this Seven Mysteries sect seems to have some tricks up their sleeves. It seems like this world can really cultivate. If that's the case, then it's really interesting. All right. Stop talking nonsense. Hurry up and read on. What they did not notice was that after Li Tai saw the title and the author of the novel, he curled his lips and secretly left the crowd. He had read this novel before, but he was very puzzled by the author's name on the newspaper. Chapter 2. Black Ox Town. This is a small town. Although it's called a small town, it's actually just a slightly larger town called Black Ox Town. Only those ignorant natives who live in the nearby ravines call it Black Ox Town. After a while, the surrounding students began to discuss again. This is interesting. I'm guessing that the Seven Mysteries sect and the Feral Wolf Gang will have an earth-shattering battle in the future. Let's fight. Old Chang Saber is already thirsting for blood. Hurry up and read the next chapter. Seeing that the others were enjoying the novel, Wang Ming could not help but come over. He had also just finished reading the third chapter. Chapter 3. Seven Mysteries sect. The smell in the carriage was obviously not pleasant. It's no wonder that there were nearly 30 children squeezed into the carriage. Although a child is much smaller than an adult, it still makes the car unbearably crowded. Damn, this Seven Mysteries sect seems to be very powerful. Indeed. I just don't know if this Han Li will be able to pass the examination. It's a pity that it's gone. The author of this novel is really asking for a beating. He only wrote so little at a time. Mister is here. Hurry up and leave. Immediately, all the students hurriedly returned to their original seats. Chung Chumo cleverly spread out the side of the newspaper that had the novel printed on it and directly spread it on Wang Ming's table. Then, he immediately slipped away. F***CK. Wang Ming looked at Chung Chumo and then looked at Lisa Xuan, who had just entered. Immediately, he cursed Chung Chumo countless times in his heart and hoped that Lisa Xuan would stop messing with him. Chapter 203. Lisa Xuan went to the outhouse during the break. When he came back, he saw a group of people crowding around the classroom. When he walked to the door, the group of little bastards scattered like birds. He had good eyesight and naturally saw that Chung Chumo had tricked Wang Ming. However, he did not say anything this time. He only looked at Wang Ming indifferently and then continued with his lecture. Wang Ming hurriedly put away the newspaper and let out a big sigh of relief. He felt a little strange. He was not afraid of anything before, but when he faced Li Zixuan, he always felt an inexplicable fear in his heart. Imperial College Building. Damn, awesome, awesome. Ziffin quickly turned the page. In a corner of the building, a chubby little boy sat next to Sun Ziffin. The two bastards had their arms around each other's shoulders and lowered their heads as if they were looking at something together. The little fatty couldn't help but urge in a low voice as he watched on. What's the hurry? I haven't finished yet. Wait a minute. Sun Ziffin impatiently mumbled. Damn, the Seven Mysteries sect is awesome. I also want to cultivate. Is there any cultivation sect in Great Tang? Sun Ziffin unhappily said, Kid, are you drunk? Aren't you afraid that your father will beat you to death when you go back? Forget it. A moment later. Huh, that's it? Damn, it's over already? Sun Ziffin could not help but shout. However, his voice was a little too loud, and Assistant Master Mao finally noticed the commotion. Sun Ziffin, you Donkai, what are you two doing? Assistant Master Mao was slightly angry and said in a deep voice. He always had a headache when it came to the students of the Imperial College. These bastards were used to being arrogant, and it was difficult to discipline them even in the Imperial College. Nothing. Teacher, you must have misheard. Sun Ziffin quickly calmed down. Then, he stood up and said with a calm face. Yes, sir. We really didn't read the novel just now. No. I mean, we didn't read the newspaper just now. No. Udonkai was not as calm as Sun Ziffin. His expression was slightly flustered, and in the end, he accidentally exposed himself. Sun Ziffin could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood. Truly, one should not be afraid of a godlike opponent, but one should be afraid of a pig-like teammate. He glared fiercely at the scammer next to him, wishing he could strangle him to death. When Teaching Assistant Mao heard this, how could he not know that these two bastards must have been secretly causing trouble downstairs? He walked down from the podium. Yes, the podium. After the School of Mathematics introduced the blackboard chalk, the other schools introduced the podium one after another. This was because the chalk was very useful to the teachers as it could predict the enemy's moves. Teaching Assistant Mao walked up to Sun Ziffin and said coldly, Take it out. Only then did Yu Dong realize that he had cheated his good brother this time. He looked at Sun Ziffin pitifully. Sun Ziffin felt a headache in his heart. It was as if he had forked a dog. Teacher Mao, what do you want? Sun Ziffin really liked the newspaper now and could not bear to hand it over. He still wanted to put up a resistance. Stop pretending. Hurry up and take out the newspaper that Yu Donkai was talking about. Otherwise, I'll have to talk to Sun Shaoqing and Assistant Minister Yu about your performance in the Imperial College. Teaching Assistant Mao was helpless against such a troublesome student, so he could only use the student's parents to threaten him. Sun Ziffin and Yu Dongsai's faces immediately fell. They were not afraid of the teaching assistant, but they were afraid of their own parents. Here, Sun Ziffin reluctantly took out the newspaper from under the table. He was cursing Teaching Assistant Mao in his heart. What's the difference between a teacher who uses his parents to threaten a student and a woman who uses her pregnancy to keep a man? This Teaching Assistant Mao is so boring. Teaching Assistant Mao definitely did not know that in a certain student's heart, he was already the same kind of person as a woman who uses her pregnancy to keep a man. He took the newspaper and returned to the podium to continue his lecture. Ziffin, don't be angry. If worst comes to worst, I'll buy you another newspaper when I go back in the afternoon. After the morning class, Yu Donkai eagerly chased after Sun Ziffin and said with a fawning expression, Of course you should buy me another newspaper. Sun Ziffin said angrily, Yes. I'll go buy another newspaper in a bit. Brother Ziffin, where did you buy that newspaper? I bought it this morning from a newspaper boy on the roadside. I don't know where to buy it now. Sun Ziffin rubbed his chin and pondered for a moment. Then he said, But I saw that at the top of the newspaper was Strange Culture. I don't know which store it came from, but judging from the name, it should have something to do with the Strange Culture Pavilion. Why don't you go to the Strange Culture Pavilion and ask? Strange Culture Pavilion? Yu Donkai repeated in confusion. Then he suddenly said excitedly, Ziffin, I heard that the Strange Culture Pavilion is the property of Professor Lee's family. Didn't we tell the Chancellor that we were going to transfer to the Imperial College of Mathematics? How about it? Ziffin, did your father agree to it? Son Ziffin chuckled as he took out a document from his bosom. He smiled proudly and said, everything is under control. I'll go find the Chancellor after I finish eating. Yu Donkai raised his thumb and praised. Brilliant, Brother Ziffin is brilliant. I thought I was the only one who succeeded. Son Ziffin said in astonishment. What? Your father also agreed? Yes. I was still wondering why my father was so easy to talk to this time. Brother Ziffin, when you go find the Chancellor later, bring me along. If I go with you, I'll feel more at ease. Yu Donkai expressed that he wanted to hug his thigh when he went to find the principal. When Son Ziffin heard this, he instantly thought of the things that Yu Donkai had done in the class just now. He hurriedly refused in a bad mood. No, you go by yourself when the time comes, so that you won't trick me again. Yu Donkai immediately became anxious. He chased up and said, Don't. Brother Ziffin, bring me along. I promise that I won't say a word this time. I definitely won't trick you. Are you sure you won't say a word? Yes, I'm sure. I definitely won't say a word. All right, then. I'll bring you along this time. But remember to quickly buy me a newspaper. Yes. I'll send my errand boy to find out where to buy the newspaper. Yu Donkai hurriedly said excitedly. On the other side, teaching assistant Mao finished his class and went to the canteen of the directorate. He took a meal, went to a seat by the window, and began to eat. Suddenly, he caught a glimpse of a newspaper in his hand, and his heart skipped a beat. He thought that it would be better to eat while reading what was written in the newspaper. It actually made his student so fascinated in class. But once he opened the newspaper, he couldn't stop reading. Chapter 204. In the dining hall. Teaching assistant Mao's eyes gleamed as he read the article titled Detailed Explanation of the Use of Punctuation Marks. TSK. This punctuation mark is quite novel. It seems very practical. I wonder who came up with it. Should I suggest to the Chancellor that we should popularize this punctuation mark? Teaching assistant Mao couldn't help but mutter to himself after reading the explanation of the punctuation marks. He couldn't help but stop eating. He had been teaching for many years, so he naturally understood how important punctuation marks were to his students' reading efficiency. This was why he wanted to popularize them. After sighing for a while, teaching assistant Mao continued reading. Interaction between scholars? What is this so-called newspaper trying to do? Are they trying to gather all the scholars of the great Tang together for a debate? When teaching assistant Mao saw the words interaction between scholars, he was a little confused. This on Taizong's commentaries. The person who wrote this article is quite bold, daring to talk about court politics. Ma Zhou? Who is Ma Zhou? This person is a little too arrogant. Unlike Wang Meng, Cheng Chumo, Sun Ziffin, and Yu Donkai, who had skipped over the other parts and directly read the novel, teaching assistant Mao was naturally very interested in the article on the meaning of the classics. But when he saw the title of the first article, he couldn't help but feel a toothache. Looking at the successes and failures of the past generations, the Li Shu rebelled and gathered together as bandits, and all the countries were destroyed. Although the rulers of the country wished to change their ways, none of them were safe. For those who practice politics and religion, when they are at the point of being able to practice it, it is useless to regret it as soon as an accident occurs. Thus, whenever the rulers of the country see the death of their predecessors, they know the cause of the loss of their politics and religion, but they do not know the loss of their own bodies. Thus, Yinzhou laughed at the death of Xiajie, and Yu and Li laughed at the destruction of Yinzhou. At first, teaching assistant Mao thought that Ma Zhou, a commoner, was being too impudent in discussing court politics, but as he read on, he immediately put away his contempt. His expression grew more and more solemn, and he couldn't help but murmur to himself. Since ancient times, the rise and fall of a country is not dependent on the accumulation of wealth, but on the happiness of the people. Taking recent events as an example, the Sui family stored the Luoco storehouse, and Li Mi used it. The eastern capital accumulated cloth and silk, and Wang Shichong occupied it. The western capital's treasury was also used by the state, and has not been used to this day. Xiang Shiluako, Dongdu does not have grain or silk, that is, Shichong and Limi may not necessarily be able to gather the masses. But stockpiling is a common thing in a country. One must wait until one has excess strength before withdrawing it. If we take it by force and use it to fund the bandits, it will be useless. Good. Unique insight. This person is a great talent. A great talent. Based on this article alone, we can see that Ma Zhou's ability to govern the country is not inferior to some of the officials in the imperial court. When he reached the end of the article, teaching assistant Mao couldn't help but slap the table and laugh wildly. When a scholar comes across a good article, he is more excited than when he sees a beautiful woman. In history, Ma Zhou, in the 11th year of Jingwan era, wrote an article called Shang Tai Zong Shu and presented it to Lier. The comprehensive mirror for aid and governance had a very high evaluation of this article, and it could be called the #1 article in public security policy since ancient times. Although some of Ma Zhou's ideas had yet to reach the realm of Mahayana, it already contained many of his later political ideas. Therefore, this article could be considered an extremely rare masterpiece. How could such a great talent be unknown? Alas, there are so many talented people in the world who have been buried. It seems that this Tang daily can also be used to discover talents, right? Teaching assistant Mao's interest in the newspaper was growing. He carefully smoothed out the wrinkles on the paper as if he were caressing a beautiful woman, and continued reading. Chancellor, we have something to talk to you about. The miserable Kong Ingda was once again woken up by those little bastards during his lunch break. He went to open the door with a gloomy mood. What do you want? Anyone who was interrupted during their lunch break would be unhappy. Although Kong Ingda had read the books of sages, he also had 7 emotions and 6 desires. Therefore, there was some anger in his words. Chancellor, we're looking for you to change the school. Although Sun Zifan could see that Kong Ingda was unhappy, he wasn't afraid and still told him the purpose of his visit. Oh, Kong Ingda looked at these little bastards in confusion and asked with a frown, "Didn't I tell you before that you need to get your father's permission? Why are you here again today?" Sun Zifan restrained the complacency in his heart and smiled faintly. "Chancellor, we went home and got our father's permission before we came to look for you." "Chancellor, look, this is the statement written by my father to change the school. There is absolutely no mistake." Yes. Chancellor, my father also agreed. This is the statement written by my father. This is written by my father. Chancellor, please take a look. The 7 or 8 students behind him immediately scrambled for the documents in their hands and stuffed them into Kong Ingda's hands. Compared to the last time, the number of students who came to look for Kong Ingda this time seemed to be less. It was obvious that some of the students' parents didn't know much about the current school of mathematics. Kong Ingda was really a little Spartan at this moment. He suspected that he had heard wrongly. How could the fathers of these little bastards agree to their ridiculous request? No matter what angle he looked at it from, it was impossible for them to agree. Kong Ingda was in a daze for a long time before he was woken up by Sun Zifan. He sorted out his emotions and opened up the document that Sun Zifan gave him. He looked at it carefully and saw that the handwriting was horizontal and vertical, vigorous and powerful. This was indeed Sun Fujia's handwriting. Sun Zifan was still unable to imitate it. At this moment, the last trace of luck in Kong Ingda's heart was instantly shattered. He found it hard to understand why these people's fathers would agree to transfer their children to the school of mathematics. However, before he could think about it carefully, the surrounding students had started to urge him. It was still Sun Zifan who took the lead and said, "Chancellor, look, we have the document to change the school of mathematics. Can the students be transferred to the school of mathematics?" "That's right. Chancellor, you promised us before that as long as our fathers agree, you will let us transfer to the school of mathematics." That's right. Chancellor, your knowledge is the best in the world. You can't go back on your words." "Chancellor, Quickly tell us, can we do it or not? At this moment, Kong Ingda really felt that there were hundreds of flies buzzing around his ears. He waved his hand with an extreme headache and said in a deep voice, "Quiet, quiet. What I said before naturally counts. After 2 days, your application to change the School of Mathematics will be approved." Even though Kong Ingda was extremely unwilling, but as the chancellor of the directorate, how could he do something like going back on his words? "Oh, Chancellor, that's great." "Ha! Thank you, Chancellor." "Chancellor, then shall we return to class? There are still some fellows here pretending to be obedient." Just as Kong Ingda's voice fell, the surrounding students immediately cheered. Kong Ingda hurriedly waved his hand and said, "All right, all right, all right. Quickly return to class." Chapter 205. Kong Ingda heaved a sigh of relief after sending the brats away. However, when he thought about the fact that he would have to switch schools for them, he felt a headache coming on. Sigh, what were the fathers of these students thinking? In the cafeteria, the food in front of teaching assistant Mao had already turned cold, but he didn't care at all. Ma Zhou's brilliant articles had completely captivated him. At this moment, he had truly entered a state of oblivion. He no longer cared about what was happening in the outside world. An interpretation of the law of Jingguan states, man, 3 talents, and 10,000 things are divided. Qi contains spirit, and man is the leader. Good, good, good. Ma Zhou's summary is so incisive. Shun Dynasty's political commentary states, looking at the previous generations from the Xia, Yin, Zhou, and Han dynasties to the world, it has been passed down from one generation to the next. Some have been passed down for more than 800 years, while some have been passed down for less than 400 to 500 years. Since the Wei, Jin, Zhou, and Sui dynasties, most have been passed down for no more than 50 to 60 years. How thorough! I really want to drink and chat merrily with Ma Zhou and discuss his grand ambitions. I wonder if my articles can be published in this newspaper. When the time comes, I can discuss my political views with the world's literati. Teaching assistant Mao read several of Ma Zhou's political essays in a row. He was so excited that his hands were red from clapping. Of course, he was slapping the table. The servants next to him were scared witless. They were very worried that teaching assistant Mao would break the table. Most of the students and teachers who were eating in the cafeteria were scared away by teaching assistant Mao's crazy shouts from time to time. A few of the bolder teachers leaned forward to read the newspaper in teaching assistant Mao's hands. As soon as they read it, they were immediately immersed in Ma Zhou's literary feast. Gradually, 7 or 8 people surrounded teaching assistant Mao. However, teaching assistant Mao was completely unaware of it. He was still slapping the table and cheering. "Mr. Mao, Mr. Mao." Several urging voices interrupted teaching assistant Mao's wandering between the lines of the newspaper. He raised his head, only to be startled by the colleagues around him. "Aya, Dr. Wang, Dr. Zheng, Dr. Su, teaching assistant Sin, teaching assistant Zhao, teaching assistant Yuan, teaching assistant Shun, why are you all here?" The white-haired old man smiled gently and said, "Assistant Instructor Mao, such a masterpiece is like fine wine in a dark alley. For people like us who have been immersed in literature for years, it's extremely attractive." Another scholarly scholar also stroked his beard and said with a smile, "Brother Yulun's words are true." This Ma Zhou quotes from the classics, scrutinizes the past and present, and picks and delves into the complex. His essay is reasonable. Not a word can be added, and not a word can be subtracted. Listening to it makes people feel comfortable and tireless. Even the ancient Su Qin, Zhang Yi, Zhong Jun, and Jia Yi were like this. "Gentlemen, it's past lunchtime for this cafeteria. It's time to close." The page boy at the side could not help but muster up his courage and ask, Oh, I'm sorry. Gentlemen, please follow me out." Teaching assistant Mao only just noticed the errand boy in the cafeteria. He hurriedly said with an apologetic expression, although they were teachers and were a cut above the rest, teaching assistant Mao had always been well educated. He could not bully the errand boys. That's great. Let's talk about this Tang daily together. Wang Yalun nodded in agreement. With this old scholar's words, the other teachers did not dare to object. They all followed him out of the cafeteria. The page boy bowed and thanked them profusely. Eastern Palace. Illustrious Virtue Hall. Li Chengxian leaned against the couch, carefully reading the newspaper in his hand. Since he also had 20% shares in Chi-Tu culture, he knew a little about the newspaper. However, he did not know the details. Therefore, when he learned that the newspaper was officially released today, he specially sent someone to buy a copy and come back to read it. This Ma Zhou's ability to conduct affairs is impeccable. He's even better than some of the scholars in my Easter Palace. It was no wonder that Li Zixuan had been so confident in Ma Zhou's abilities back in the workshop, sparing no effort to support Ma Zhou. Now, it seemed that Ma Zhou would be able to shock the world with a single feat, and he might even alarm Imperial Father. Should I recommend this person to my father? After reading Massachusetts Zhou's article, Li Chengxian fell into deep thought and could not help but murmur. After a while, he shook his head and decided to continue reading. Shocking. The culprit is actually so deranged as to exterminate an entire family. Oh, Great Tang's laws are strict. How can there be such an outlaw? Li Chengxian whispered doubtfully. After a while, he finished reading the article. Not bad, not bad. This county magistrate of Xinfeng County is quite quick-witted. The person who wrote this article is also not bad. The title is very attractive. Li Chengxian praised. But in an instant, he regretted what he had just said. Drunken scholar encounters brothel courtesan and actually does such unbearable things. What kind of title is this? How could such vulgar and unbearable content be published in this newspaper? Let me take a look. Half an hour later. Damn, this was written by Ma Zhou. This is simply not right. It's not what I thought before. Even someone as calm as Li Chengxian could not help but curse after reading the content of this article. But when he read the other articles, he realized that he was too young. Chang, a marquis, rushed to widow Zhao Zhuangyi's house in the middle of the night for this reason. Shocking. A woman actually does such things in broad daylight. Shocking. Shocking. Men will be silent. Women will cry. Is this still the Ma Zhou that I know? Is this still the Ma Zhou that wrote so many beautiful articles before? Li Chengxian was about to vomit blood at this moment after encountering headlines, one after another. But even though he knew that some of the headlines were a trap, Li Chengxian could not help but continue reading. He even had a faint trace of expectation in his heart. Perhaps this was, let him abuse you 1,000 times, but you still treat him as your first love. Wasn't this A Mortal's Journey to Immortality written by Xiao Xian? Why does it say Leather Knight? Li Chengxian had previously read the first 10 chapters of A Mortal's Journey to Immortality, so he was not very concerned about the latter part of the novel. He originally planned to put down the newspaper directly, but after inadvertently seeing the author's name under the title of the novel, he could not help but be stunned. He knew the author of this novel better than anyone else. But what the hell was this Leather Knight? After thinking for a long time, Li Chengxian could not figure out what Li Zixuan was up to. He put down the newspaper and prepared to take a lunch break. Chapter 206. Oh, we can finally transfer to the School of Mathematics. Brother Ziffin, it's all thanks to you this time. In the future, we can also take 2 days off every 5 days. Inside the school of Imperial College, Yu Donkai patted son Ziffin's shoulder excitedly and laughed. Ha! Donkai, do you think I went through so much trouble to transfer to the School of Mathematics? Just for this? Son Ziffin laughed in a low voice. The little fatty's eyes suddenly lit up when he heard this. He sneakily approached son Ziffin and asked, "Oh, brother Ziffin, do you have a deeper meaning?" "Huh." Son Ziffin laughed proudly and then said mysteriously, "Of course, Donkai. Think about it carefully. Dr. Li taught Assistant Master Mao and the others before. Strictly speaking, we have to call him Grandmaster, right?" "Yes, that's right." But after 2 days, when we're transferred to the School of Mathematics and Mathematics, Professor Li will become our master, and Assistant Lecturer Mao will become our senior brother. As for us, won't we become the other students' martial uncles? Uh-huh, Sun Zifen said with a cheeky smile. Yu Donkai was stunned by his brother's strange way of thinking. But after thinking about it, he felt that this was indeed the case. So he quickly gave him a thumbs up and laughed. Yes, 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 Brother Ziffin's words are reasonable. Very reasonable. Ha! I didn't expect you and me to become martial uncles so soon. Ha ha ha. This wild laughter immediately attracted the attention of the other students in the school. Slap. Sun Ziffin slapped him hard and said angrily, "Are you stupid? Do you want everyone to hear you so loudly?" Sorry. But why hasn't Assistant Master Mao come today? Yu Donkai rubbed the back of his head and then asked doubtfully. Sun Ziffin rolled his eyes and said, "How would I know? But I told you to buy a newspaper for me this afternoon. Did you buy it?" Yu Donkai hurriedly laughed and said, "Ha, Brother Ziffin, don't worry. I've already sent my errand boy to the Strange Interest Pavilion to inquire about this newspaper. When the time comes, we'll definitely be able to buy it." In the pine forest to the east of the Imperial College, the 9 teachers from different academies sat on the stone benches in the forest, drinking and chatting merrily. They sat down and discussed the Tao, feeling very comfortable. Assistant Teacher Mao, for this Ma Zhou to be able to write such a splendid essay, he must be a virtuous sage. Have you heard of him before? Wang Yaluan held a cup of wine and took the lead to ask. Dr. Wang, this person has always been unknown. I've never heard of him before. Now, this Ma Zhou has amazed everyone with a single brilliant feat. Assistant Master Mao hurriedly replied. Wang Yaluan nodded, stroked his beard, and said, "Well, I have a different opinion about some of this Ma Zhou's points of view. I just don't know if I can write an essay and publish it in the Tang Daily. When the time comes, I could debate with Ma Zhou on the same stage." The other assistant teachers and professors also echoed, "Yes, it would be best if you can debate with Ma Zhou on the same stage." Yes. Assistant Master Mao replied, "I also have the same idea, but I don't know how to publish it in the Tang Daily. Why don't we read it together?" "That's a good idea." A moment later, shocking. The murderer is so deranged that he killed the whole family. Why did this essay start to use vernacular? There's no literary talent at all? Indeed, it's really disappointing, but the content of this essay is very interesting. Well, maybe this Ma Zhou deliberately used vernacular so that ordinary people can understand it. After the 9 teachers finished reading the first article, they couldn't help but discuss the huge change from classical to vernacular. Drunken Scholar met the courtesan of the brothel and did such a despicable thing. Chang and Marquis rushed to widow Zhao Zhuangyi's house in the middle of the night for this reason. Shocking. A woman did such a thing in broad daylight. However, the following 3 pieces of news left everyone dumbfounded. I thought this Ma Zhou was a refined person. I didn't expect him to be so vulgar. Yes, the titles of the following articles are exaggerated and vulgar. It's really a disgrace to the refined. As scholars, how can we be so shameless? It's really abominable. The voices were almost one-sided. Almost all of them condemned Ma Zhou. Ma Zhou had changed from a handsome and virtuous person to a refined scum that everyone condemned in speech and in writing. Only Assistant Coach Mao and Wang Yaluan didn't say anything. After the others finished criticizing, Wang Yaluan said with a smile, "I don't think so. As the saying goes, great vulgarity is great elegance. The difference between vulgarity and elegance is just a matter of thought. It depends on how you look at it. The wording of these few articles is not flowery. The entire article is written in plain language. This old man guesses that this section is mainly written for those who are barely literate and have not studied the meaning of poetry. If that is the case, these topics are really not ordinary. This Ma Zhou is a true wise man. Why do you think so, Brother Yaluan? Yes. Why are these titles extraordinary?" Wang Yaluan looked at Assistant Coach Mao and said with a faint smile, "Assistant Coach Mao, you seem to have some ideas. Why don't you tell us your opinion?" Assistant Coach Mao straightened his back and said in a deep voice, "I think Ma Zhou wrote these titles on purpose. Professor Wang had previously said that these articles were written for the common people to read. Hence, these titles were even more pleasing to the common people and would make them even more interested in reading them. I think this is Ma Zhou's cleverest part. He is elegant when he needs to be, and vulgar when he needs to be. Wang Yaluan clapped his hands and said with a smile, "Assistant Coach Mao is right. I think so too. Let's continue reading." Wang Yaluan was the most experienced person here. The others couldn't refute his words, so they continued reading. Shocking. Shocking. Men will fall silent. Women will cry. Everyone was gradually getting used to these exaggerated titles, so they didn't make a fuss this time. However, when they saw the content, they were all shocked. Huh? The Tang Daily is collecting manuscripts from everyone? It's not limited to men or women, and the pay is very generous. This is a very novel idea. Dr. Wang, do you want to send your masterpiece to this strange culture to try? That's right. Professor Wang, your essay on the Confucian classics is flawless. Wang Yaluan was quite tempted when he heard this. He didn't care much about the pay from Kiki culture, but who didn't want their essays to be read by the world? My fellow colleagues are right. Please excuse me for a moment. I'll go write an article and debate with Ma Zhou. After that, he cupped his hands and left hurriedly with the others. Chapter 207. Excuse me for a moment. I almost forgot that I still have to teach the students. Assistant Lecturer Mao exclaimed when he saw the time. After bidding farewell to everyone, he hurried to the Imperial College. While he was in a hurry, an idea popped up in his mind. Since the Tang Daily is offering a high price for everyone's essays, should I get a try? Unlike Wang Yaluan, who was well off, Assistant Lecturer Mao's salary was relatively low. If his essay was accepted, he could become famous and earn money to support his family. Wouldn't that be perfect? With that in mind, Assistant Lecturer Mao quickened his pace. Good morning, sir. Assistant Lecturer Mao had almost doubled the usual 30-minute journey. He stood on the podium and coughed dryly. Ahem, sir, I was delayed by something earlier. In the afternoon, everyone will study by themselves and revise what I explained this morning. Assistant Lecturer Mao's mind was elsewhere. He cleverly copied Li Zixuan's lazy trick and told the students to study by themselves. Although the students were puzzled, they did not ask too much and could only obey obediently. Assistant Lecturer Mao saw that everything was settled. He asked a few students to keep an eye on the situation and then hurried to his office. He remembered that the Tang Daily had written that submissions should be submitted as early as possible. If he went back now and sent it to Chitu Culture, it might be published tomorrow, in a restaurant in Dongshi City. So there was a massacre in Xinfeng County recently. No wonder I saw so many officials when I went to my child's second aunt's house last time. That's right. This family is so pitiful. Big Dog Wang, what are you talking about? Why don't I understand? Ha. Zhao Lauer, didn't you read today's newspaper? What newspaper? Here, that's the one. This morning, there were children hawking this all over the capital. Didn't you buy one? Oh my, it's such a big piece of paper with so many words. I can't afford it. What's written on it? Is it as good as what you said? Haha, Zhao Lao, you're wrong this time. This newspaper isn't expensive. It only costs 5 copper coins. How is it? Are you surprised? Haha, let me tell you, the things written in the newspaper are really *king interesting. For example, let me read to you. Drunken scholar encounters brothel's top courtesan and actually commits such a despicable act. What do you think? Do you want to see it? The eyes of the man named Zhao Er immediately lit up. He hurriedly nodded like a chick pecking at rice and said with a lewd smile, Yes. Brother to go, quickly tell me what happened next. Seeing Zhao Lauer's anxious face, Wang Dago's vanity was greatly satisfied. He smiled proudly and said, Hee, then let me tell you. 2 days ago, a drunken scholar wandered into Peace Square. As Wang Dago spoke, more and more people gathered around the table. The newcomers didn't know what Wang Dago was talking about. After asking, they understood that it was an interesting story from the Tang Daily. After getting to the bottom of it, they were naturally surprised by the low price of the Tang Daily. They all secretly made up their minds that if they met a child selling newspapers tomorrow, they would definitely buy a copy. It would be stupid not to buy such an interesting and cheap newspaper. This interesting phenomenon was rapidly spreading to all parts of Chang'an. The novel thing called newspapers was also quietly entering the lives of the people of Tang Empire. "Brother Ma, how's the sales of today's newspaper?" Li Zixuan went straight to the workshop after class. He went to the back hall and found Ma Zhou. "Lord Zhu, you're here." Ma Zhou first bowed to Li Zixuan. Then he said with a flushed face, "This morning, the sales of the newspaper weren't good. After all, it was just launched. Many people still don't know what a newspaper is. Those who were willing to spend money to buy it at that time were mostly greedy for the cheap price of the newspaper, not because of the content of the newspaper. Therefore, in one morning, only less than 400 copies of a newspaper were sold. However, when it was close to noon, a few groups of people suddenly came. They all seemed to be from rich and powerful families. Each of them bought dozens of copies, and they seemed to already know the content of the newspaper. Before Lord Zhu came, all the newspapers today were sold out." The more Ma Zhou spoke, the more excited he became. He was indeed excited. First of all, the good sales of a newspaper were an affirmation of his hard work. Second of all, in the first edition of the newspaper, there were many proud works that he had been brewing for a long time. Now, they were widely praised in Chang'an. His political views and ambitions would be read by countless people. He was very likely to become famous in one fell swoop. Li Zixuan looked at the excited Ma Zhou and smiled meaningfully. "Haha, now that Brother Ma is going to become a big celebrity in Chang, and it won't be long before the officials in the imperial court know that there is such a talented and virtuous person among the people. At that time, maybe His Majesty will also be alarmed. Brother Ma's day of meteoric success will not be far away." Haha, Li Zixuan was right. Gold would shine no matter where it was. If Lier knew about Ma Zhou, this kind of genius, he would definitely spare no effort to recruit him. According to the historical records, in the 5th year of Jingguan, Lier requested that every official in the imperial court write an article about the gains and losses of the current political situation. At that time, Ma Zhou was only a follower of Changhe. This person was very important. He was a trusted aide of Taizong. That year, when the Xuanwu Gate was changed, Changhe was the one who guarded the Xuanwu Gate. Changhe was a military general and did not know how to write. When he saw that the emperor wanted him to write an article, he could not help but feel anxious. When Ma Zhou heard this news, he wanted to repay the emperor's kindness and took the initiative to write the article for Changhe. Changhe was very happy and let Ma Zhou write it for him. A few days later, Changhe presented the article that Ma Zhou had written about the current political situation to Lier. After Lier read it, he was shocked. He knew that Changhe was not good at writing. How could he write such a thorough article? He did not believe that this was written by Changhe and asked Changhe if he had written it. Changhe was an honest person and did not take credit for himself. He honestly told Lier. When Lier heard that there was such a genius under Changhe, he was very happy and immediately wanted to meet this genius. He did what he thought and ordered someone to call Ma Zhou over from Changhe's residence. However, he did not expect that Ma Zhou would be so arrogant. The attendant that was sent over came back alone. Not only was Lier not angry, he sent someone to invite Ma Zhou again. After sending out 4 envoys, he finally managed to invite the arrogant Ma Zhou to the imperial palace. This was the famous story of Taizong's 4th invitation to Ma Zhou in history. Li Zixuan had heard their history teacher talk about it in his previous life. Therefore, he purposely said it today to see how Ma Zhou would respond. In fact, he was not confident that he could keep Ma Zhou. After all, the temple of Qitu culture was still too small and could not accommodate a great god like Ma Zhou. Compared to Lier's great temple, Qitu culture did not have any attraction. What kind of person was Ma Zhou? Naturally, he could tell that there was another meaning in Li Zixuan's words. He was stunned. After a moment, he solemnly cupped his hands and said, "What are you talking about, Lord Zhu? Ma Zhou was just a homeless scholar in Chang'an. I am indebted to Lord Zhu for not abandoning me and being willing to help me in a business together. That is how Ma Zhou is today. Now that Qitu culture has just taken shape, I will definitely not leave. Chapter 208. Even if His Majesty summons me at this time, I will never do such a treacherous thing. I remember Lord Ju once said that you want all the scholars in Tang to be able to read books. At least before this great wish is realized, I will not leave. In the back hall of the workshop, Ma Zhou looked at Li Zixuan and said sincerely. Li Zixuan was touched. Unlike modern people who chased after fame and fortune, ancient scholars had integrity. This was the first time he had experienced such a scholarly character. Aha, Brother Ma, you are a man of noble character and unquestionable integrity. I was right about you. But don't worry, Brother Ma. The scale of court culture will become bigger and bigger in the future. It will not bury your talent. Moreover, Brother Ma's future will not be bad if you work in court culture. Just like now, didn't you become famous in Chong? And because of the first issue of the newspaper? After listening to Ma Zhou's sincere words, Li Zixuan could not help but laugh happily. Ma Zhou nodded in agreement and said, "Ha, Lord Ju is right. Ma Zhou has been wandering around for so many years, and I am a little indifferent about the future. The most important thing for a person is self-cultivation. A talented person will get the future he deserves no matter where he is." Haha, that makes sense. Gold will shine no matter where it is. The two talked and laughed for a while. Unknowingly, their relationship became closer. Lord Ju, the first batch of books has about 300 copies of each book, a total of 15 books. It is estimated that the printing will be completed in the next few days. How is the preparation of our bookstore? Ma Zhou took the initiative to ask. Li Zixuan pondered and said, "Brother Ma, don't worry about this matter. I've already bought a shop next to Court Pavilion. The interior has been renovated and it can be opened at any time. In the future, this shop will be used to sell new paper, books, and newspapers. The shop will be named after court culture. What do you think, Brother Ma?" Li Zixuan had already asked Wang Zhong to contact someone about the shop. Wang Zhong was in charge of paying for the shop and finding someone to decorate it. He had always been a good hands-off shopkeeper. Very good, very good. Since everything is under Lord Ju's control, I just need to do things with peace of mind. Steward Ma, there's a young man outside who insists on buying a newspaper. Just as the two of them were chatting happily, a manservant came over and said in a hurry, "Tell him directly that today's newspaper has been sold out and that he will come back tomorrow." Ma Zhou waved his hand and said. The manservant said with a bitter face, "I also told that person, but he said that he had to buy the newspaper today. Otherwise, he was afraid that his young master would not forgive him. Moreover, he came here today after inquiring about many places." The person asking for the newspaper outside was the errand boy sent by Udonkai. After this unlucky fellow was sent out by his young master, he asked around and finally found the curious pavilion workshop. In the end, he was told that the newspaper was sold out. Thinking that she would definitely be punished by her young master if she went back like this, the little attendant made a scene at the entrance of the workshop, unwilling to leave. Li Zixuan saw an open newspaper on the table. Ma Zhou must have read it himself, so he said, "Here, take this and send that person away." "Yes, boss." The manservant took the newspaper and hurriedly left. Li Zixuan looked at Ma Zhou and said, "Brother Ma, go and get someone to print more newspapers. From tomorrow onwards, the number of newspapers printed will gradually increase. I estimate that the demand for newspapers will increase." What Lord Ju said makes sense. I also have the same intention. Li Zixuan nodded and said, "Well, Brother Ma, how are the preparations for the layout of the second issue of the newspaper?" After all, the newspaper had just been published. Li Zixuan felt that there would be relatively few people submitting articles today, so he asked this question. Ma Zhou smiled confidently and said, "Don't worry, Lord Ju. I have already prepared the content of the second issue. Even if no one comes to submit articles today, I will still be able to fill the newspaper." Li Zixuan felt a little relieved. Ma Zhou's work was indeed reassuring. There were some things that he did not need to instruct at all. Ma Zhou had already taken the initiative to do it. "Nan Feng, come here." In an old house in Yang Lane, Wang Yaluan called for the servant to come over. "Hey, master, you called for me?" A servant in green ran over quickly and bowed. Wang Yaluan handed over a stack of papers and said, "Nan Feng, help me send these papers to the editorial department of Court Culture in the East City. Tell them that I want to submit articles." "Yes, master." Nan Feng took the papers and was about to go out. Suddenly, he paused and hesitated carefully. "Master, where is the editorial department of Court Culture? I have never heard of it." Wang Yaluan stroked his beard and smiled. "Haha, according to the newspaper, it should be inside the workshop of Court Pavilion in Ani Lane. You should be able to find it if you look carefully." Although Nan Feng did not know what a newspaper was, he still knew about the workshop of Court Pavilion that had been popular in Chang and recently. "Yes, master, don't worry. I will definitely send the papers." The Imperial College. Kong Engda had gotten a newspaper from somewhere. He was sitting on a stool and reading it with great interest. From time to time, he would sigh. After an unknown period of time, Kong Engda put down the newspaper and sighed. This Ma Zhou is really a refined person. The first few policy essays were written clearly and logically. The last few articles on current affairs, although straightforward and popular, did not lose their humor. Haha, although the latter part of the novel is unrealistic, the imagination of a heavenly steed soaring across the skies is truly admirable. Moreover, this newspaper even intends to let scholars submit articles. I'm afraid its influence will only grow in the future. Kong Engda took another look at the newspaper and shouted, "Alu!" A moment later, a young servant came in and bowed. "Master, Alu, every morning when you see a child selling newspapers, remember to buy a copy of this newspaper for me." Kong Engda held the newspaper and instructed. "Yes, master. Taiji Palace, Sweet Du Hall. Genius, this is a genius. Ma Zhou. Zhao Song, who is Ma Zhou?" Li Er asked curiously as he leaned on his dragon throne and looked at the newspaper that he had gotten from God knows where. "Your Majesty, Ma Zhou is a scholar in the workshop of Li County. According to the investigation, this newspaper was handled by Ma Zhou." Zhao Song was obviously prepared. When he heard Li Er's question, he quickly answered, "Yes, go and investigate this Ma Zhou in detail. I am very interested in this person." Li Er nodded and ordered softly, "Yes." A moment later, Li Er suddenly laughed. "Haha, this Xinfeng County Magistrate is really good at solving cases. He deserves to be rewarded. Zhao Song, send someone to the Ministry of Personnel to pass on my orders. Xinfeng County Magistrate Chong Qing Yuan is conscientious, selfless, and able to solve cases like a god. He will be rewarded with 100 pieces of gold and silver and 10 pieces of silk." Chapter 209. In the Ganlu Palace. After about an hour, Li Er finally finished reading all the contents of the newspaper. He did not frown or criticize or scold the clickbait, articles at the end, and the novel at the end. He just smiled thoughtfully and said to Zhao Song, "Zhao Song, this newspaper that you found is quite interesting. I see that it says that there is a daily edition here. From now on, send me a daily edition of the newspaper." Zhao Song heard Li Er and smiled like a blooming chrysanthemum. He bowed and said, "Yes, Your Majesty." "Oh, right. How much is the price of this newspaper?" Li Er thought for a while and said, "Your Majesty, the price of this newspaper is 5 coins per copy. It's so cheap. Doesn't that mean that ordinary people can also afford to buy newspapers?" Li Er raised his eyebrows and said in surprise, "Unlike some fatuous emperors who did not know the ways of the people, Li Er was very familiar with the prices of the people. He knew how cheap a newspaper was at 5 coins per copy." "Indeed, Your Majesty. I heard from the eunuch in the palace that there were people talking about the news in the newspaper in all the taverns in Chang'an today. Every time Li Xinji comes up with something new, the people of Chang, and we'll talk about it for a long time." Li Er thought for a while, and he shook his head with a smile. This kid still has a conscience this time. He did not set a high price for profit. I don't know what he's thinking, but this is also a good thing. It can let the people know about the Tang Empire's national policy. It's also beneficial to the imperial court. Moreover, This newspaper will encourage more people to learn how to read. It's quite a good education. Lisa Schwan, this kid, I'm afraid he's up to something big. Steward Ma, two people came to the workshop to deliver manuscripts. They said that their master is coming over to submit a manuscript. In the backyard of the workshop, in the editorial department of Chi-Tzu Culture, a servant knocked on the door and came in. He bowed to Ma Zhou and reported. Ma Zhou's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise. He got up and took the manuscripts and said, "Okay, I got it. Song Xiaoxi, thank you for your hard work." Song Xiaoxi trembled. He did not expect Ma Zhou, a big shot in the workshop, to remember his name. It's not hard at all. This is what I should do. Steward Ma, thank you for your hard work. Song Xiaoxi hurriedly said with a smile. Ma Zhou smiled and said, "Well, if there are any submissions in the future, please send them to me as soon as possible. This is very important." "Yes, I will remember. If Steward Ma has nothing else, I will take my leave." Ma Zhou smiled and nodded. After Song Xiaoxi left the room, he sat down and read the article seriously. After a while, he clapped his hands and laughed. Good article, good article. It seems that tomorrow's newspaper needs to be changed." With that, he took the manuscript and hurried out to the printing department of the workshop. The next morning, with the beating of the morning drum in the bell tower, the city of Chang, which had been asleep all night, was awakened. The pedestrians and peddlers who had woken up early also walked out of the shop and began a tiring day of running around. Selling newspapers. Fresh out of the Tang Dynasty daily, today's headline was, "Bloodwind Stockade is heartless enough to kidnap innocent girls." Lee County's man is enraged by beauty, draws his sword, and challenges Baimeng Mountain alone. If you want to know what will happen, you only need to pay 5 coins. Early in the morning, a newspaper boy on a skateboard wandered around the streets of Chang'an. The crisp sound of selling newspapers woke up the people who had just woken up and were still in a daze. The passers-by saw that these children were all neat and tidy and were very cute. Moreover, the story from a newspaper boy was really interesting. The most important thing was that the newspaper was not expensive. Many people had already bought the newspaper yesterday, and the content was really interesting. Therefore, the passers-by who woke up early all took out 5 copper coins to buy the newspaper. "Hey kid, wait, give me a copy of the newspaper." "Give me a copy too." "Give me a copy." Unlike the desolate sale situation yesterday morning, after a day of accumulation, many people knew that the content of the newspaper was really interesting. As soon as the newspaper boy came out, he was surrounded by many people. Don't worry, everyone has one." "Auntie, you haven't paid yet." "Uncle, don't worry, here's your change." "Don't push, everyone must have one." The newspaper boy had never experienced such a scene and was a little flustered. However, these people still had some quality. Under the advice of the newspaper boy's young voice, although they did not manage to be orderly, at least there was no stampede. After a quarter of an hour, the crowd in front of the newspaper boy finally dispersed. He breathed a sigh of relief and was secretly happy. According to today's situation, he would definitely be able to sell a lot of newspapers. When the time came, he would get a lot of money. According to Li Zixuan's suggestion, Ma Zhou set the daily salary for these newspaper boys according to the number of newspapers they sold every day. For every 5 newspapers sold, they would get a commission of 1 coin. It was not that Li Zixuan was stingy, but for these children, earning a dozen coins a day was really a lot. Moreover, with the current price of the newspaper, the workshop was not making money. Now, they were making a loss. First, they had to build the reputation of the newspaper and then think about making money. After Li Zixuan finished his breakfast, he sat in the carriage on the way to the Imperial College. Just as he stepped out of the door, he heard the newspaper boy's advertisement for selling newspapers. He almost vomited blood. Ma Zhou was the one who came up with the advertising message for the newsboy. The message was changed every day. Yesterday, he was only concerned about the progress of the layout of today's newspaper and did not look at the content. In his opinion, since he used Ma Zhou, he should not doubt the people he used and not use the people he suspected. He should try his best to delegate as much power as possible. Of course, one could also say that he was lazy. who knew that he would put himself in the headlines by delegating power. This Majot was King up trouble. How can an employee mess with his boss like this? Sambao, go and buy a newspaper for me. Li Zishuan's face was full of black lines as he shouted outside. Yes, young master. Sambao stopped the carriage outside and quickly went to buy a newspaper and handed it in. Li Zishuan opened the newspaper and began to read it seriously. After a while, he touched his chin and muttered with a smug face. Am I really that handsome? Not bad, not bad. This Majot's writing style is really good. TSK. This psychological description is so accurate. It deeply and vividly shows the anxiety of an infatuated man to save the woman he loves. TSK. This description of the action is so handsome. Haha, Majot, well done. Why go to the workshop? I will give you a raise. Li Zishuan was originally unhappy that his subordinate had made the headlines. However, when he saw Majot's wonderful description in the newspaper, the discomfort in his heart was immediately forgotten. Anyway, this news was not written by him, so there was no suspicion of him praising himself. At most, it could be considered as him praising himself. Iron Egg heard his master's shameless words and quickly lowered his head to cover his face. He could not help but snicker. Chapter 210. You brat, what are you laughing at? Am I not handsome and powerful? In the carriage, Li Zishuan saw Iron Egg covering his face with his hands, as if he was ashamed to be associated with him. Li Zishuan slapped the table and snorted. No, of course you are powerful. Iron Egg quickly waved his hand to deny it. Here, take a look at it. Actually, this newspaper is very well written. Iron Egg was speechless. Young master, the newspaper you wanted, I have bought it for you. On Vermilion Bird Avenue, a young boy in green held the latest newspaper and excitedly rushed to the front of a black carriage. A chubby little hand immediately stretched out from the carriage, and then a hurried voice was heard. Quick, bring it to me. Under the urging of the carriage owner, the newspaper was quickly dragged into the carriage. The person in the carriage was Udonkai. The little fatty was holding a piece of pastry in his hand a moment ago. After he received the newspaper, he immediately stuffed the pastry into his mouth and then eagerly opened the newspaper and jumped directly to the novel section at the end. This guy was not interested in reading the previous articles. He bought the newspaper to read the legend of a mortal's journey to immortality. Udonkai did not directly look at the content. He first glanced at the few chapters that were available today. When he realized that it was still 3 chapters, he felt a little disappointed. However, these feelings of disappointment were quickly washed away by the wonderful plot. On the other streets, the hot sales of the newspaper continued. Many of the newspaper boys entered the more crowded streets and began to peddle their wares, but they were surrounded by people. Quick, give me a newspaper. Give me 5 copies. Why do you need so many? I'm buying for my young master and young mistress. Why do you care? The newspaper boys happily sold the newspapers and received money while looking at the decreasing number of newspapers in their hands, secretly anxious. Before dawn, the newspaper boys everywhere had already sold out. At 4:45, the second issue of Tang Daily was sold out. Uncles, aunts, brothers, and sisters, I am very sorry. Today's newspaper is sold out. Please buy more tomorrow. A newspaper boy shouted when he saw that there were still 20 to 30 people in front of him who wanted to buy the newspaper. It sold out so quickly? Yeah, it was sold out as soon as I got here. It's over. I didn't manage to buy the newspaper. I'll be punished when I get home. Little kid, go back and ask your shopkeeper to print more newspapers. That's right. There were still some smart people in the crowd. The paperboy also felt that what they said was reasonable. He quickly excused himself and ran to the workshop on a scooter. Strange Interest Pavilion Workshop. Steward Ma, bad news. Song Xiaoxi rushed over anxiously. Majot's expression suddenly changed. He quickly got up and asked, "What's wrong? What happened?" When Song Xiaoxi saw Majot's expression, He knew that Ma Zhou had misunderstood. He quickly explained, "Steward Ma, it's not a bad thing. Today's newspapers have all been sold out. The newsboys have all returned." Ma Zhou breathed a sigh of relief, but then exclaimed, "What? They were sold out so quickly? We printed 5,000 copies today." But they were indeed sold out. A lot of people didn't manage to buy them, but they were still clamoring to buy them. "Steward Ma, what should we do now?" Ma Zhou thought for a while and decisively said, "Print more. Ask the printing department to start printing more copies immediately. Print 3,000 copies first. Get ready to continue printing at any time." "Yes, I'll go now." Imperial College, School of Mathematics. After the painful lesson of Wang Meng last time, no one dared to read novels during class this time. However, this didn't stop them from reading novels after class. "Hey, Wang Meng, did you read the newspaper today?" After class, Cheng Chumo ran to Wang Meng's side and proudly said, "Oh, I bought it when I came this morning, but I didn't have time to read it." "Why? How many chapters did Leather Knight update today?" Wang Meng took out a piece of pastry and stuffed it into his mouth. He pulled out the newspaper from under his seat and said in a muffled voice, "Hee, it's still 3 chapters today." Speaking of which, Hanli has already become an in-name disciple of the Seven Mysteries sect. Furthermore, Dr. Mo has taken a liking to him and accepted him into the God Hand Valley. Dr. Mo even passed on a nameless chant to Hanli. "Woo woo woo. Hey, what are you doing?" Ching Chumo hadn't finished bragging when Wang Meng covered his mouth. "F*CK, can you stop talking? You've already said everything. What's the point of reading it?" Wang Meng said hatefully. After spending so much time together, Cheng Chumo, Li Tai, Qin Huayu, and the others had already become familiar with the others. When they were mischievous, they didn't care about each other's identities. Pay. Did you not wash your hands? It stinks." Cheng Chumo turned on his insulting mode again. Wang Meng angrily said, "F*CK, you're the one who didn't wash your hands. I was just eating." Li Tai looked at the two with a look of superiority. He already knew the first 10 chapters of a mortal's journey to immortality. If it weren't for Li Zishuan's strict order not to reveal it to others, this little fatty would definitely run out to Ching Chumo and Wang Meng and spoil their faces. "Hey, Wang Meng, I didn't buy the newspaper today. Let's read a novel together. After reading A Mortal's Journey to Immortality yesterday, I almost couldn't sleep." Yes, me too. Let's read it together." Hearing that Wang Meng had a novel to read, 3 to 5 students immediately surrounded him. Kushirqing, you actually read the newspaper too?" Cheng Chumo saw that Wang Meng couldn't cause any more trouble and was preparing to return to his seat. Suddenly, he saw Kushirqing, the university tyrant, in everyone's eyes, flipping through the newspaper. Cheng Chumo immediately approached him, as if he had discovered a new continent. "Why can't I read the newspaper? Many of the articles in this newspaper are very well written, and some of the current affairs are also well written. Just by reading this newspaper, you can know the world's affairs without going out." Kushirqing looked at Cheng Chumo strangely and asked, So he was reading the newspaper to study. Cheng Chumo was a little frustrated. He shook his head and said, "It's okay, I'm just casually asking." After saying that, he was about to leave, but he still asked somewhat unwillingly, "Then don't you want to read the latter part of the novel? It's very good." Kushirqing said matter-of-factly, "Of course I read it. Although the writing of this novel is not good, the creativity is really novel. I usually read the first part of the novel before reading it." "Oh." Cheng Chumo nodded and turned to leave, feeling a little hurt. Suddenly, Meng Wenhao's voice came from behind him. "Hey, Chumo, can you lend me your newspaper?" Meng Wenhao said, somewhat embarrassedly. 5 copper coins for a newspaper was very cheap for others, but for Meng Wenhao, he was still somewhat reluctant to buy it. Now that everyone was saying that the content in the newspaper was very interesting, he also couldn't help but want to read it. Cheng Chumo looked at him and then nodded. "Okay, no problem. I'll give it to you." Thank you. Imperial College teaching room. During the break between classes. "Hey, Ziffin, Did you read the newspaper today? Yes, I read it. It's very interesting, but it's a pity that there are only 3 chapters. I really want to catch this leather knight and make him write a few more chapters. Sun Ziffin's face first had a look of reminiscence, but then a look of hatred appeared on his face. Yeah, this person is really hateful. He only writes 3 chapters a day and always keeps people in suspense. Yu Donkai also said with hatred. Chapter 211. Li Zixuan had no idea that he was being targeted by the 2 little bastards. He was taking advantage of the break between classes to rest on the sofa in the carriage in front of the classroom. It wasn't that he was lazy, but it was really tiring to stand and lecture for a long time. At this moment, he truly understood how difficult it was to be a teacher in his previous life. It was indeed a respectable profession. Outside the classroom of the Imperial College, Assistant Professor Mao also took advantage of the break between classes to come out. Unlike Li Zixuan, he didn't have a luxurious caravan. Assistant Professor Mao came to the grove and sat on a large rock. He hurriedly flipped open the newspaper to see if his article had been accepted. Hey, Assistant Professor Mao, have you read the newspaper today? At this moment, a white-robed scholar walked over and said with a smile, Oh, Assistant Professor Tsin, I asked the servant to buy the newspaper today, but I haven't had the time to read it yet. I took advantage of the break between classes to have a look. The scholar was Assistant Professor Tsin from the Four Gates Academy, who had discussed Tao with him yesterday. At this moment, teaching assistant Tsin said with a smile, Then Brother Mao, quickly take a look. Both your and Dr. Wang's articles have been published in today's newspapers. I've already read them. I didn't expect Brother Mao to still be so brilliant despite not writing for so many years. Assistant Professor Mao was pleasantly surprised. Really, he didn't care about modesty anymore. He hurriedly flipped open the newspaper to look for his article. Yo, Brother Zheng, what are you doing here? Yang Lane, Wang Yaluan's old house. There was a knock on the door. Wang Yaluan knew it was Professor Zheng, so he personally went out to welcome him. Haha, Brother Yaluan, I'm here to congratulate you. Have you read the newspaper today? Professor Zheng followed Wang Yaluan into the courtyard and laughed. Yes, I have. Haha, Brother Yaluan's policy paper was really brilliant. I'm itching to write one too. Brother Zheng, you must be joking. Your policy paper is definitely better than mine. If you write, I won't dare to embarrass myself. Please come in and let's talk inside. In a restaurant in East City, 2 men in their 30s were sitting opposite each other. There were 2 or 3 dishes on the table. The gray-clothed man took a sip of wine with satisfaction. Then, he looked at his companion and proudly said, Hey, Wang Dachui, have you read today's newspaper? Wang Dachui stuffed a mouthful of food into his mouth and said in a muffled voice, Not yet. What's so nice about it? Hey, you're wrong. Do you know that the Bloodwind Stockade was wiped out by the Imperial Court's army a while ago? I know. I saw those bandits at Yinshin Gate that day. Then do you know why these mountain bandits were suddenly exterminated after occupying Mount Mang for so many years? I don't know about that. I was also wondering earlier. Aren't those mountain bandits quite famous on the Greenwood Path? How'd they get wiped out all of a sudden? That's the headline of today's newspaper. It said that the Bloodwind Stockade abducted innocent girls. A man from Lee County was so angry that he drew his sword and challenged Mount Mang alone. Let me tell you, the process was King brilliant. Wang Dachui's eyes lit up, and he immediately became interested. He hurriedly said, Hey, then Brother Zhao, quickly tell me about it. What's the point of talking about it? I'm not a storyteller. You might as well buy a newspaper. It's only 5 coins. Nowadays, how many people in Chang and city don't read newspapers? The gray-clothed man looked disgusted. He was just short of saying, You don't even read newspapers. You're already out. Wang Dachui was sweating profusely. He didn't expect that he couldn't chat happily with others just because he didn't read the newspaper. Damn, I'll buy it. It's not like I can't afford it. Waiter, help me buy a newspaper. Here, the extra coin is your reward. The waiter was speechless. This situation was not unique. Today, it was happening everywhere in Chang and city. In this era where there was a general lack of entertainment, a trivial matter could be talked about for a long time. The news in the newspaper just happened to be the topic of many people's leisure conversations. People who had never read newspapers naturally felt that they couldn't chat well. Therefore, as long as their families were not particularly poor, they would buy a newspaper and read it. This was a new thing. Once it had a certain number of fans, it would become popular in the later stages without additional publicity. Because the initial fans would take the initiative to introduce this new thing to the people around them. Eventually, the fans would snowball and become larger and larger. After the morning class, Li Zixuan left the teaching house. When he was about to go home for lunch, he saw Kong Ingda walking towards him. Li Zixuan asked Iron Egg to get in the car first, and he went up to him. "Chancellor Kong, you're looking for me?" This old man usually didn't come over. Once he did, something must have happened. As for whether it was a good thing or a bad thing, Li Zixuan secretly calculated in his heart. It seemed that the probability of something bad happening was higher. It's not a big deal." Kong Ingda looked around, paused, and said in a low voice, "I've read today's newspaper. Generally speaking, it's not bad. However, I still want to say one more thing. Young people should be more humble. You must not be arrogant and boast about yourself." After Kong Ingda finished speaking, he patted Li Zixuan and left directly. He didn't give Li Zixuan a chance to explain. In his opinion, the facts were right in front of him. There was no need to explain. "Hey, it's not like that." Li Zixuan was stunned by Kong Ingda's strange words. When he came back to his senses, Kong Ingda had already disappeared. This old man, Li Zixuan grumbled under his breath for a while, then stopped caring about this matter. If others misunderstood, then let them misunderstand. Imperial Palace, West Court. "Your Majesty, is this the newspaper? I've heard many people talking about this newspaper these 2 days." Zhang Sun couldn't help but ask when she saw Li Er flipping through the newspaper while eating. It's the newspaper. Guani Mei, come and take a look." Li Er put down his chopsticks and hugged Zhang Sun. He sniffed her body fragrance, then pointed at the newspaper headline and laughed. "Look, this newspaper was created by Li Zixuan. But now this brat is here boasting about himself. How shameless." Zhang Sun curiously leaned forward. After a moment, she covered her mouth and laughed. "This child, isn't he shameless? Your Majesty, this style of writing, I'm afraid it doesn't match Li Zixuan's style." Zhang Sun had seen Li Zixuan's memorial before, so she had some doubts. Li Er laughed and said, "Of course this article wasn't written by that brat himself. If he really did that, wouldn't he be shameless to the extreme? I reckon that Li Zixuan must have force majeure to write it. That brat." "Your Majesty, who is this majeure?" Li Er said warmly. "This majeure, he—" Chapter 212. Han Village. "Yushi, this is the newspaper that I asked old who to bring back from Chang'an." Han Lijing walked in from outside and handed a newspaper to Han Yushi. Then he smiled. Han Yushi quickly took it and said happily, "Thank you, father." Take a look. What's written in today's newspaper?" "Okay." Han Yushi responded softly and began to read the newspaper carefully. Today's headline came into view. Bloodwine Stockade abducted a good girl. Li County's man was furious for a beauty. He drew his sword and challenged Bei Meng Mountain alone. Han Yushi's expression couldn't help but be startled. The soul-stirring life and death rescue half a month ago reappeared in her mind once again. The corners of her eyes flashed with tears not long after. "Yushi, what's wrong with you?" Han Lijing saw that his daughter's expression was not right. She looked like she was about to cry, so he quickly asked. "No, nothing, father. Today's newspaper is very interesting. I want to take it back to my room and read it carefully." Han Yushi immediately realized that she had lost her composure. She quickly wiped the corner of her eyes and forced a smile. Although Han Lijing felt that something was wrong, he was a father. He was always separated from his daughter's inner world. Some things were not good to ask in detail. He could only nod and say, "Okay, you go. Yushi, if you have anything unhappy, you can go to Qin's mansion in Chang and to talk to your adoptive mother." Although you can't see Xiaoxian before you get married, you can still go to your adoptive mother's house. Ever since the marriage between the Han and Li families was confirmed, Han Lijing changed the way he addressed Li Zixuan from young master to little Xian. It wasn't because he was arrogant, but because he was considering his daughter's life after marriage. If he continued to call Li Zixuan young master, it would unknowingly lower his daughter's status. Okay, thank you, father. I'll go back to my room first. Han Yushi's heart was warm. She stood up and said. Han Lijing nodded. In the room, Han Yushi picked up the newspaper again and continued to read the headline. Although she had experienced all of this personally, she had experienced it from her own perspective. This news article was written entirely from Li Zixuan's perspective. One afternoon, Ma Zhou asked Li Zixuan about the details of what had happened in Bloodwind Stockade. At that time, Li Zixuan had nothing to do, so he told him about it. However, he did not expect that Ma Zhou would write it into a news report. Han Yushi's gaze flowed between the lines. At this moment, she truly understood the hardships Li Zixuan had gone through to rescue her. That kind of helplessness and despair, that kind of hysterical madness, once again touched Han Yushi's heart. In the eyes of others, these descriptions might be a little exaggerated, but to Han Yushi, who had personally experienced the kidnapping incident, everything was so real. The actual situation was even more dangerous than what was written on it. Young master, I'm afraid Yushi will never be able to repay what she owes you in this lifetime. As Han Yushi watched, she could not help but cover her mouth and cry bitterly. And Elaine, Strange Interest Pavilion Workshop. Steward Ma, those 3,000 copies of the newspaper have been sold out again. Do you want to continue to print more? Song Xiaoxi ran in with sweat all over his face and said anxiously, What? Ma Zhou was really shocked. He stood up and said, That's 3,000 copies of the newspaper. They were just sent out less than 4 hours ago. How could they be sold out so quickly? It's only noon now. Go and ask the printing department to print another 2,000 copies of the newspaper. Even if they are sold out again, we won't print them today. Yes, I'll go right away. In a mansion in Chang'an, a 14 or 15-year-old child in brocade clothes was holding the second issue of Tang Daily and reading it with great interest. TSK, this a legend of a mortal's journey to immortality is really wonderful. But why are there only 4 to 5 chapters? Where are the first 3 chapters? The child in brocade clothes sighed with a little dissatisfaction after reading the first 3 chapters of this issue of a legend of a mortal's journey to immortality. Brother, you're so stupid. The first 3 chapters are naturally in the last issue of Tang Daily. A little girl around the age of 10 giggled as she spoke from behind. Ayaya. Yin Er's words make sense. Agaway, come over here quickly. The child in brocade clothes was suddenly enlightened. He slapped his thigh and shouted loudly. Young master, why did you call for Agaway? Go and buy me a copy of the last issue of Tang Daily. Agaway had obviously heard of the newspaper before. When he heard his child's request, he immediately looked troubled. Young master, this newsboy only sells today's newspaper. I'm afraid there's no place to sell the last issue's newspaper. The little girl named Yin'er giggled and said, Agaway, you're so stupid. Don't you know how to buy from someone who bought the last issue of the newspaper? Yes. You're so stupid. Yin'er is much smarter than you. The child in brocade clothes agreed. Agaway wiped the sweat off his forehead and bowed. Thank you for your advice, Mississippi young master. Agaway will go and buy the newspaper now. Go. The child in brocade clothes waved his hand anxiously. West City, in the open space next to the Drunken Immortal restaurant. A middle-aged scholar dressed in wrinkled white clothes was sitting in front of a long table. There were dozens of people of all shapes and sizes sitting in the open space. There were men and women, old and young. The middle-aged scholar slapped the table and loudly said, Let's go. That Han Li, who tried his best, did not pass the 7 Mysteries sex entrance trial. In the blink of an eye, he reached the top of the cliff. In front of him, there were 6 children sitting cross-legged and resting. William was talking to an old man in his 50s who was wearing a dark blue robe and had his hands clasped behind his back. Hall leader Yu and enforcer Wang were standing beside him. There were also several people standing beside them. The audience below was listening to the story with great interest while drinking the herbal tea bought from the Drunken Immortal restaurant. They were very satisfied. The crowd around them was also growing larger and larger. Shopkeeper, do you want me to drive this poor scholar away? The storyteller actually dared to talk about our Drunken Immortal restaurant. How hateful! In front of the Drunken Immortal restaurant, a young servant said to shopkeeper Liu, who was listening to the story, "Drive your ass." Shopkeeper Liu unhappily slapped the back of the young servant's head and angrily said, "Didn't you see how much tea this Hitizui brought to our Drunken Immortal restaurant? Although tea is not as expensive as wine, many a little makes a mickle. No matter how small a mosquito is, it's still meat." Yes, yes, yes. Shopkeeper Liu is wise. Go, 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 go. Go brew me another pot of tea. This story is quite interesting. Shopkeeper Liu waved his hand and comfortably sat back on the stool, leisurely listening to the story. Gradually, Hitizui's sixth chapter of the legend of a mortal's journey to immortality came to an end. During Dr. Mo's time in the Seven Mysteries sect, although the disciples have never seen his skills and do not know the strength of his martial arts, he has used his brilliant medical skills to save the lives of many disciples. Therefore, although he is often expressionless and rarely speaks, he is still respected by the disciples of the Seven Mysteries sect. Dear guests, today's story has come to an end. This Hitizui's life is not easy. If you have money, come and support me. If you don't have money, come and support me. That's it. That's right, it's too fast. I haven't heard enough yet. Be content. Today, Hitizui told 6 chapters in one go. The first 3 chapters of the legend of a mortal's journey to immortality are already very difficult to read. Yesterday's newspaper didn't have much. That's right. I specifically came here to listen to the first 3 chapters. And Hitizui, well said. Here, this money is your reward. Thank you for your support. Chapter 213. As night fell, the workshop of Chitu Pavilion was still brightly lit. Ma Zhou bent over the table and was writing something. He had been eating and living in the workshop for the past 2 days. Although it was tough, Ma Zhou was excited. The first day of the Tang daily sales volume was 1,000 copies. The second day's sales volume soared to 10,000 copies. Moreover, it was still in short supply. According to this, the sales volume in the next few days would increase at an amazing speed. This brilliant result showed that he had succeeded in running the newspaper. It was not only a success in his career, but also a real success. At this time, Ma Zhou could not help but think of the subtle changes in the attitude of the scholars who helped compile the dictionary in the workshop. In this world, strength spoke louder than words. If Li Zishuan had helped him that day, those scholars would not have been convinced, and it would have seriously affected the progress of compiling the dictionary. It was much better to rely on his talent to convince people. Thinking of these pleasant things, Ma Zhou felt that his body was full of vitality again. The frequency of the vibration of the writing brush in his hand increased. The next day, as Ma Zhou expected, the sales of the newspaper were even better. Hey, kid, give me 2 copies of the newspaper. My young master and young lady are anxious to read the legend of a mortal's journey to immortality. Give me 1 copy. My young master is anxious to go to the Imperial College. Give me 10 copies. After 2 days of word-of-mouth accumulation, there were very few people in Chang and who did not know about the newspaper. Driven by the popularity of the newspaper, when it was sent out by the newsboy in the morning, it was snatched up. Fortunately, Ma Zhou was prepared and printed 35,000 copies. That was how he withstood the crazy rush in the morning. Master Ma, the 35,000 copies of the newspaper printed this morning are almost finished. Do you want to print more? Now, in the workshop, who dared not to admire Ma Zhou when they saw him? Therefore, the people below called Ma Zhou Master Ma instead of Steward Ma. Ma Zhou pondered and said, "Print another 5,000 copies." The demand for the newspaper in the afternoon should not be as high as in the morning. Yes, old Ma, there are two businessmen outside. They said that they want to buy a batch of newspapers from the workshop and send them to the counties near Chang and to sell. At this moment, Song Xiaoxi rushed in from outside and said, "Oh, someone came so quickly? It seems like there are still smart merchants around." Ma Zhou stroked his chin. He was mentally prepared for this situation. "Let's go take a look. Brother Ma, how's the newspaper sales today?" After lunch, Li Zixuan came to the workshop. After finding Ma Zhou, he asked directly. Ma Zhou smiled and gestured with his hand. Li Zixuan's eyes lit up as he happily said, 8,000. Li Zixuan didn't know about yesterday's newspaper sales. Otherwise, he wouldn't have guessed that it was 8,000 yuan. According to his estimation, it would be good if the sales volume increased from 1,000 to 8,000 in 3 days. Ma Zhou shook his head and smiled. "Lord Zhu, it's 80,000. Yesterday's sales volume reached 10,000. Li Zixuan was shocked and exclaimed, 80,000? How can it be so many? The newspaper was launched less than 3 days ago, and the population of Chang was only a few 100,000. No matter how optimistic Li Zixuan was about the newspaper sales volume, it was impossible for it to reach 80,000. Ma Zhou smiled and explained, "Lord Zhu, at noon, 2 calligraphy and painting businessmen came. They directly ordered 40,000 newspapers from the workshop. They planned to sell them in other counties in Chang, and now the printing department of the workshop is working at full capacity. We're trying to print 40,000 copies before noon." Li Zixuan raised his eyebrows and said in surprise, "I didn't expect someone to see the potential of this newspaper. Brother Ma, what price did you sell it to them at?" "I sold it at the original price. Our newspaper is already very cheap, so I didn't dare to lower the price privately. These businessmen will definitely sell it at a higher price in other counties. They won't lose money." Li Zixuan nodded and praised. Not bad, not bad." Ma Zhou thought for a moment and said, "Lord Zhu, since yesterday, some businessmen have been hoarding a batch of newspapers and selling them at a high price to other places. However, because the number of newspapers they can buy from the newsboys is limited, the scale is not big. The 2 calligraphy and painting businessmen who came today are the real big spenders." Li Zixuan nodded thoughtfully. Then he suddenly said, "Brother Ma, since the other businessmen have smelled the business opportunity, why don't we take the opportunity to expand to Tang daily so that the newspaper's influence is not only limited to Chang'an? It's best if we can spread the newspaper's influence to the whole country." Ma Zhou was shocked by Li Zixuan's ambition. He hesitated and said, "Lord Zhu, if we do this, we will need too much manpower and resources. With Chitiu Pavilion's current foundation, I'm afraid it will be a little difficult." Li Zixuan smiled and said, "Brother Ma, of course, we won't do it ourselves. We can find someone we can cooperate with for a long time. For example, Wang Renbiao. The Wang family has ready-made channels in various places. We don't need to worry about it all." Ma Zhou thought for a moment. If they cooperated with someone for this matter, there were indeed many benefits. He agreed and said, "That's true. Then I don't have any more questions." Then I'll go find Wang Renbiao later and see if he's interested in cooperating with us." Li Zixuan stood up and suddenly remembered something. He said, "Oh, by the way, Brother Ma, has the first batch of printed books been printed?" "Indeed. These books will probably all be sold at Chitiu Pavilion in the Yi City tomorrow." Ma Zhou heard and replied excitedly, "Great. Brother Ma, remember to make a short advertisement for Chitiu Pavilion in tomorrow's newspaper. It's best if you can make a list and tell everyone how cheap our books are." "Lord Zhu, what's an advertisement?" Li Zixuan explained, "It's an advertisement. The purpose is to let more people know about Chitiu Pavilion sheet books." "Oh, I see." Ma Zhou nodded in understanding. Then he thought for a moment and said, "Then in the future, can we also put up some advertisements for the merchants and shops that have paid us?" Li Zixuan was shocked. This Ma Zhou's thinking was really advanced. He even knows how to collect advertising fees now. What a genius. Theoretically, we can do that. This advertising revenue will be the newspaper's biggest source of income in the future. Now, the most important thing is to promote the newspaper. The more people know about it, the better. Also, Brother Ma, you have to take care of yourself. I see that you don't look too good. You should hurry up and find some assistance for you. The Tang daily can't rely on you all the time. You can't do it all by yourself. Lord Ju is right. I will hurry up. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.